And that's our show today, folks.
we are gone. Yeah, gentlemen, thanks for doing this. I think we all know we've tried to do this for a long period of time, but these two over here have like rather difficult schedules, and getting everybody in the same room is sometimes challenging.
I'm here.
He's
here.
Yes, but thank you much. I don't want to make this biographical. Is that the right word? Biographical? It's a big word, like gymnasium.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. You use a lot of big words. Sometimes I don't know what you're. So you got to dumb it down for me, because I listen to all the shows when I'm driving. So, you know, some of these big words, I don't know. What the hell's that mean?
I just read the dictionary every night, 'cause Lord knows I didn't get that education when I was younger. What was the first time that we met? The first time you were exposed to Boogie Street? Do you remember the story?
Parking lot.
Yeah, microphone. Parking lot. Microphone.
I know for me, it was me sitting in a warehouse and getting paid to just surf eBay and look at guitars. I mean, if you pare it down, that's what the reality of it was. Because
true.
And all of a sudden, I came across these BC Riches, and I was just like, this has to become part of my reality somehow. And
talking, my friend.
And it did.
We'll bring the microphone to you.
So I'm trying to think of what that mall is, but
Parkway Center.
Parkway Center. I'm assuming it's still there too.
I think the building's still there.
The building's
right?
still there, but malls are just.
I think it's a hotel. It used to be a Giant Eagle or something.
Well, yeah, there was a bunch of like fantastic dance clubs there in the 80s and 90s. Not that I can remember that stuff, but you know.
I think it, to the best of my memory, it was still Saturdays. It was always Saturdays. Like I'd meet up, like, hey, well, I'll meet up with you on Saturday, and it just like the first time I remember we met, it was like we were like, hey, how you doing? You know, I'm Eric, and you know, I'm Arun, and we started talking about guitars, and like I think like over like at least an hour later, we were still standing there.
Yeah, one time it was raining,
just
too.
talking about guitars, yeah,
and probably looking pretty shady because I think I had the back of my car open, or my Tahoe lid was up or something, and we're just standing there looking like some kind of drug deal going on in the middle of daylight.
Yeah, and it wasn't just BC Riches, because I sometimes I'd meet up with you and you'd be like, hey, check this one. And I remember specifically it was an ESP made in Japan, and it was a Dragon guitar, and it wasn't like something you would play, but it was literally a piece of art. And that was another half an hour conversation about that and guitars as well. And
do you remember the trade deal we did?
Actually, I remember the very first, because it was I don't know what year it was, but it was an anniversary. I think it was 25th anniversary Taylor, but Taylor had left the pickguard for me off at the factory, and my dad had gotten it for me, and he had given me the third degree about getting it. And like, you don't understand, this is not just a guitar, this cost this much money for a guitar, and this and that. So I'm like, Dad, believe me, I do, because I was crapping my pants that I was getting the opportunity, and one of my parents was doing this for me. And I remember when I saw the big, I was like, the only thing that I can possibly trade him is that guitar. And it was so hard to let go of that guitar, and I didn't know even how hard it was until years later, because you don't, with perspective, you don't realize, like you just said, I wish I would have never, especially with guitars, because I can run down the list of how many guitars that I've had.
You're in great company there.
You know what I mean? But when it comes to people, like family and stuff like that, it hits a different note. And so years later, I got that perspective on it, but it was something. I also got a different perspective as well, because if that didn't happen, and I would have, the relationship, everything after that would have never happened. And the funny thing about it was, because I remember it was like, I would get a guitar off of you, and it was the first time I'd come through an experience like it. I'd have it for a couple of days, and I just knew like, yeah, it's cool, but it's just not. And it would come back to you, and that's what happened with that very first deal. It was built by Bernie Jr. Mockingbird that was just so ungodly beautiful that it was the first guitar that I'd picked up, and I was like, I can't play this. I can't put a scratch in this. I can't I'm not a hang up on the wall. Everything that's at my place. It's very rare that you're going to pick it up and it's not going to be in tune, because I just spend days just going around and then play them. I'll play a couple of my tunes on this or that, but it was literally, I felt like I was holding something that should be hanging in a museum. And
that was well before we were working with Bernie. This is back when he was doing stuff on the side for BC Rich.
Yes, because and there was some of the GMP. I think.
The one memory. The Starman, the flag one I had, the sparkles and
the silver sparkle Mockingbird I had that finished. GMP does that sparkle finish like nobody else, in my opinion. It's just
agreed.
like in their own thing. So I that's what happened. I'm like, dude, I can't play this, and I ended up getting a NAMM show Mockingbird off you, which is still hanging on my wall. Right on. And I've ran out of. I can't imagine how many times people have been just looked at that, but like, they never made another one, so it's the only one of its kind. And I've just over the years, I wrote tons of music on that guitar, and up until I got the Black Preacher on you, that was my number one guitar, and it was just like you stuck your thumb into the plum pudding of my mind and just like and tweaked it, because I was like, pointy guitars, BC Rich, occasionally Jackson. And then after I met you, everything changed. It was a whole different experience to be in a room with you and him, and just sucking up knowledge off of him and sucking up knowledge off of you, just like, because you would have guitars there that I would not normally play. I can remember some of the PRSs that you had that gave me a whole insight into like, they're amazing guitars. It's never been my thing. I think I have one of their small parlor acoustics, but the whole Birds on the Inlay, Clouds on the Inlay, it ain't me. But it gave me such a perspective as a player, as a musician, and then when you get into just some of the sessions where it'd just be like, instead of us standing after the parking lot days, and now, Well,
I want to talk about that, because here's the irony of this whole thing, is that the second or third time we met to do a deal in the same parking lot, it was raining, and I started talking to him, and I go, by the way, I just leased 2,000 square feet over there off Ryan Court there, and I think it was considered Crafton. I don't know, it's Robinson. And you look at me and go, well, why are we standing here? And I'm like, yeah, why are we standing here? So we drove over there, and that was literally 5 days before he arrived. 5 days. Because when you went in, there was nothing there but the initial guitars I was messing with well before the Washburn deal. We were there, and then 5 days later, he came in to set up a BC Rich bass, because I was working with a local dealer here in Pittsburgh who was a BC Rich dealer who couldn't somehow sell their products. I was taking it off of them laterally and having success moving it. But I had this bass that had to be tuned to ship. And I'm like, wait a second, I know Freddie from a while back. Is he even in town? I contact him. He walks in. Where's the bass? Walks over, tunes the bass up, sits down with it for a little while, and I'm just doing stuff. My kid's there, I'm like, my kid's looking at Fred like this big guy, 6'3" with all this hair, and my son's like, Dad, who is this guy? And he goes, here you go. And I said, what do I owe you? And he goes, we'll figure it out some other day. I'm like, no, what do I owe you? He said, don't worry about it. He's getting ready to walk. I got to go to work. He's getting ready to walk out, and I said to him, I said, wait, I go, listen, I got all these ideas, and I'm going to be churning a lot of guitars. Do you want to work out a deal where you can come in and set guitars up while you're home off the road, and we can work out an arrangement, whatever you want to do. I just, maybe we can do a deal where we can tell people that Fred Kowalo set the guitar up. Would you be into that? Real non-committal, like, yeah, maybe we'll work something out. And he just turns around and walks out that back door, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe something will come of that. He didn't give me an answer. That was a Thursday. I come in Sunday. Monday, because I think I saw you on the prior Saturday. Yeah, I would have came in on a Monday morning, and in the middle of that space is that road box. Cardboard boxes, small cases of Jack Daniels, 3 or 4, baseball cards, bottles of iced tea. I think it was iced tea.
Yeah.
Corn puffs, and like tons of boxes. And then there was like a duffel bag full of like strings and cords, just sitting in the middle of the room. In the middle. That's it. And I'm like, he doesn't have a key. I didn't work out a deal with. How did he get in? How did you get in?
I don't even know.
And he never told me he was coming. And then he's never left. And that's how Fred entered my life.
And all his shit was done. Everything he needed done was done.
Yeah, but this started a couple days after you were, because you were the first person outside of my family to walk in that joint.
Wow.
And I remember saying to myself, I'm kind of uncomfortable because I was going to be online only, right? We weren't going to have any public in there. No, that was the initial, because I was going to be the anti-dealership, right? But then I'm like, hey, I met some guy locally. He's cool. I'm going to invite him in. And that was the first. Yeah, that was the first time. That's what happened. And then you came around.
I came around.
You came around, if I'm not mistaken, when we got the Washburn agreement in late 2003, and we commissioned a bunch of dimes. When did we catch your notice?
Right after Dime passed, back in the message board days.
Yeah, the good old days.
Yeah, it was on the. You had all the swag, the leftover swag, the Dime stuff.
We had the Washburn. Yeah, we bought all of the Dime swag. It was offered to us, by the way. We didn't seek that out, but they didn't want to parse that stuff out and then have dealers mark it up. They said, hey, if we sell it all to you, we just sell it for the MSRP, and we did.
Right.
We did. That's a little side.
Yeah, you had all that stuff, so you put a post out on the board. Now, I already knew Fred. I knew him for like 2 years or so, which how we never got hooked up before that, I have no idea. But so after all that, I remember I sent you a message through that, and I said, hey, I'm looking to get some shirt, whatever. I don't remember what was there now, but so I remember I went up, I think it was a Saturday, and I kind of funny because the parking lot comes into play again. I'm sitting out there, and I don't know, you must have been doing something or whatever, and I'm out in the park, I'm knocking on the door's locked, and I'm getting ready to call him. I'm like, man, I think he's stupid. So I said, all right, I'm going to walk around. I walked around the other side, couldn't get in the building, because remember, Froggy was all locked down.
It was Saturday, yeah.
Yeah, so I finally called again, you answered the phone. I'm like, yo, I'm outside, okay. So I came inside, and then I just remember like all the boxes that were on the floor, sweatshirts, work shirts, hats, all kind of stuff, T-shirts. So I'm like, yeah, I'll get one of this, one of this, one of this. And then you're like, here, take one of these, take one of them. I'm like, okay, well, I didn't plan on spending them. And he's, no, just take it. And then you opened up some of the cases. You're like, well, look at this.
That's how they do it. It's like a drug deal. Try this shit for free, but over here I've got the good stuff.
Yeah. So, and then that's what we talked for a while, and then
you were hooked.
Yeah,
chunky.
And then I'm like, well, I'm gonna think about that. And I remember I called him. I'm like, is this dude legit? Because it was like, I'm like, he just gave me all this stuff that I didn't ask for. I'm like, what's going on here? But he's like, nah, it's good. So I don't know if you remember, it's either the following week or the week after, whatever.
The following week, yeah.
I came back up, and I think that's when I bought the Southern Cross.
Yeah, we at that moment we had all these. We had commissioned the Dime stuff a year prior before he passed, like just tons of stuff, and we were showing interest in a guitar run that it kind of, so lack of a better term, has run its course with Washburn. They weren't selling briskly, so when we did all those orders, and I figured there'd be a connection. The Black Label family, Fred was coming out of that, the tie-in with Dime. I figured we'd have a good shot of re-energizing the Dime shape. I had no idea that we could do our own custom stuff at that time. It was like we were just going to start ordering runs of stuff. And then he unfortunately passes, and it was like, the interest level was overwhelming. But with that came a lot of really unsavory folks. So I could, I was how did I put it one time? I said, I got to really make sure before I latch on or extend goodwill to people that are sincere locally, because I was nervous, but you guys were so right on and spot on, you two and a couple other folks we can mention down the line here, that helped build a foundation of like my local quote unquote crew for a business that didn't have any local business. It was a very odd time for a lot of reasons. A gloomy time, especially for Freddie. I mean, you knew the guy personally and the whole thing that went down with that. But yeah, I remember it well, man.
But the funny part about that was, like you said, it was like I hadn't met Rune yet, but it was because of what happened, and we were all there. It was almost like we were all in that together.
Yes,
you know what I mean. Everybody was connected
100%
by one thing. It was pretty cool.
It was cool. I knew something was happening, and it was every Saturday. It almost seemed like from that time period. I mean, there was, you guys weren't there every Saturday, but close. Definitely like almost every other Saturday.
Yeah. It got to that point where it was.
But it was
because that's what I look forward to every week. In the warehouse driving a forklift, it was like, it's like this now, but come Saturday.
Oh, you're going to go see Eric again on Saturday. Oh, you can be home with us. You can be mowing the lawn. Yeah, you got to go to Boogie Street. Got to go to Boogie Street. Got to go fuck around at Boogie Street. Go enjoy your Boogie Street. Go see your Boogie Street friends. Yeah.
I remember that too. Yeah. You're going to be down there all day, aren't you?
Yeah, that's what it is.
What are you guys doing down there?
You're going to be down there all day.
But we were, man. We'd roll in there like 10. We'd roll out.
It was the club,
Yeah, like 5 or 6.
Going to the club.
The answer was, I hope so.
Right?
Without naming names, because we don't want to do that. We don't want to disparage anybody. But what I loved about you two especially is that the timing was fantastic. Meaning, like, if we had a visitor or a guest or a group of, I hate to say use kids, but they were kids that would seek out us somehow. They'd find us because we did our best to kind of hide.
Yeah,
we were not retail. They'd find us, and they somehow want to come, and we'd let folks in to hang out and see things. But you guys would always give me the real freaking evaluation while they were there, and certainly after they left, because it was a little interesting. That whole the Dimebag fan base, I'll say it's pretty broad. There were some elements that were funny and a little odd at times, unfortunately.
It was a completely different world than too. Yeah, everything was so different, and
Yeah, the thing for me was that I, being considerably older than most of these kids that would show up, I would be there like in a, not every weekend, but I had like an Oxford shirt on, and jeans, and they're looking at me like, how's this dude got a bunch of Dimebag guitars in his space here? It just didn't fit. But in the end, it was all worked out perfectly. It all fit in the end.
Well, it was, and that was one of the good things about that, man. Is we did the dime stuff, but we also had at that time the Nuno stuff and the stuff we did with Nick. We did the stuff with Scott Ian. We did everybody or the Dan Donigans.
Dan Donigan,
Sean Donier,
Face Erasers,
the Drowning Pool.
Yep.
CJ.
Yeah. That was a CJ.
So we had all those other things too. So I mean, at that point, we were. It was bigger than just dime. It was fun to have the dime thing, but we went on to Paul Stanley after that too. So Boogie Street, we touched on a lot of different sizes and shapes and styles and we kept trying to keep it in the metal genre. But
we did.
But you got those kids that came in and this one's an Anthrax fan or this one's a Disturbed fan.
I thought it was great. Don't get me wrong.
It was fun,
and it was generally always fun. There was just
good cast of characters.
Yeah, we had characters would be.
Yeah, well, that's what that's
it's rock and roll, man.
Yeah, metal and rock and roll.
It was an education for me for sure. Only because I thought at that point in my life that before the Washburn agreement, I was doing a lot of yuppie style guitars.
That's what I was going to bring up, because
initially
when it was the BC Rich thing with you, so it was that was the only reason. So, but once when I came in, you're like, well, my regret is you had some Les Pauls, and I was not a Les Paul. I'd had one or two before I met you, but I was just like kind of thing, and you tweaked me in a way. It started with the Preachers, but it turned into a Les Paul thing. And I remember you had Les Pauls, and I just didn't pay any attention to them. The PRSs I would play because I was just curious, but that was basically it. And I remember the first time you mentioned Washburn, and I was like, huh?
Yeah, that's where I wanted to go with this.
I was like, huh? Washburn? Why? Really? What? I just wasn't, because at that point it was still. It wasn't Dimebag, it was Diamond Darrell in my head, because that's how he started out in my head. It was Diamond, there was no Dimebag whatsoever. I was completely fine with the change, but it was Diamond Darrell was a Dean player, so I didn't, the Washburn thing, it wasn't even association. So as soon as you said Washburn, I was like, how do you get the Washburn from BC Rich and I mean, I get the, oddly I don't remember you ever having any Fenders though. It was either Gibson or
what brand is that?
Or exactly. PRS.
What brand is that? Did we? I don't think our brand was even allowed on the premises, as far as I know.
No, I'm trying to think.
No, sorry.
No, because I remember you telling me even before I met you, that you would sometimes get some good, and I've done it previously. I kind of picked up your habit. I'd get something off pianos and stuff. I don't know if I should say this on air. But,
you absolutely can. They're great people.
So, yeah, they're great people.
Absolutely.
So I would, you would get something off, and you'd be like, yeah, I got this off of them, and you would flip it for somebody that you knew that wanted. But it was strictly PRS, Gibson.
It was, and before. I was at Ryan Court before Boogie Street actually had that space, and I was still out of my office at home. I was getting pretty good at finding custom shop Fender stuff, and my knowledge base was good, and I would flip it. I mean, I could, these are the earlier years of the internet, where a guy in Idaho in a rural area might not have the availability to walk and go grab this particular guitar, but I could find it in Pittsburgh, and I was a conduit to find used stuff, and it was pretty profitable. But the Washburn thing is where I want to go with this, because before I go back and give you just a brief 2-minute history of how I got connected with Washburn, when you saw some of the other things we were doing with Washburn, on the USA front in the beginning, besides the Dimebag stuff, like the WI-68 Idols, and you saw like just some of the other guitars, did you have an indifferent view of Washburn, or did you have a different view once you saw the USA work? Were you impressed at that point?
I had once I actually, once I have something in my hands, that's it's changed since then, but that's when the evaluation starts. And I as soon as you mentioned it, I was like, well, just from what you had and you've seen and I'd played, and from which I was like, it's got to be a good thing. So I didn't really know what to expect. And I think there's two sides of it. It's not only the USA side, which has always been just an amazing quality level to me, no matter what they make, no matter what it is. The import side, because if I remember, it was kind of both at the same time, because you had like the import Nick runs, and there was the other ones that were they had the X on the fretboards. They were like a Strat kind of shape.
Yes.
So it kind of seemed
face erasers.
It wasn't a face eraser, but it was like
it was like that.
It was similar to that. It wasn't like
that. They were imports though, right?
Strat shape.
Yeah, they were imports. Yeah, and I remember just them being like, "Well, it's kind of pretty cool," And I had already been. I knew Washburn from, say, like, Carlos Cavasso and Rudy Sarzo and stuff like that. So I was familiar with but that's the only, in my mind, those are the Washburns that come to mind. So I really didn't,
Yeah.
And I got an eye-opening, yeah.
Well, I had to be convinced, too. What was your thought when you picked up the USA Dime? I mean, obviously you were hooked for a lot of reasons, but I remember you being a big fan of other USA product we would get in. Like, I was amazed at how you took to the single cuts we got in.
I never, to back up though, I was never until even now or after that, I should say, I was never brand loyal to anything.
Right.
It wasn't like I was strictly a Washburn guy or a Jackson guy. I would play whatever.
Yeah.
Like he said, if I pick it up and it felt good, I would run with it. But when I to be honest with you, until I picked up one of the first USA Dimes, I never played a custom guitar. That was the first exposure I had to it, because I could never walk into somewhere and pick up a $5,000 guitar off the wall because they knew I wasn't going to buy it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it was, like he said, it was an eye-opening to see something that was not just run-of-the-mill pumped out of a factory, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So, but once I physically touched it, you could feel the difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then even when you started doing all the other import stuff, like you could, where that went was new levels. You know, it was right on par with all the other stuff. So
I guess we should probably get this out of the way before we get too much further. How I got the Washburn dealership, because at that time, I had not gotten the office space yet. I was still in my home, and I was deluded into believing that maybe I could design guitars that kids would dig. I think I kind of know what a kid wants to, because I was either deluded or else I was being honest with myself. So I reached out to Fender and Gibson, PRS, PV, and I reached out to like 5 or 6 dealers or manufacturers and said, "Hey, I want to do an online only. If I get retail, office space, if I get space, commercial space, I want to do an online only arrangement." And this is 2002-ish, and they were trying to figure out online sales in general for dealers. So remember the map pricing thing, and and a lot of the brick and mortar stores in 2002 hated the internet. They were actually intimidated by it, right? But I wasn't, and but every one of these manufacturers, turned me down. And I was even saying, hey, I'll commit a certain amount of money, maybe we can do certain runs of this or that. I have some aesthetic ideas, and they didn't need me. I get it. They didn't need me, right? Washburn was the last one on my list, and I still have at home the little notebook with them, the last one. And I reached out. I had been exposed to Washburn's quality, though, from a local guitar dealer, nice guy here in Pittsburgh, but I could kind of tell he was not going to be around much longer. Just he was doing other things, and I heard the name Steve Bennett from this guy, and I just called Steve Bennett, and I explained who I was, what I wanted to do, and then I drove to Washburn, and I met with Rudy. He took my. I figured if this guy's crazy enough to drive from Pittsburgh 9 hours, he must really be serious. And literally, the idea of doing custom runs that we had day one, which I have to, when he joined me, but just pretty quick after that, we really exploited that. But I had the idea of doing custom runs of stuff, limited stuff. I thought limited Americans special stuff, custom cars, 1 of a kind, 10 of a kind. And I was seeing Gibson and Fender having limited runs of things. And I always said to myself, they sell so well, because I was selling them used, right? The collectors love it. People in this country love to collect special stuff. Why can't you, for lack of a better phrase, why can't we exploit the idea of doing that? In Washburn, I think it was music to their ears, because they were not considered in the same vein as Gibson and Fender and PRS and, those 3 for sure. And I had no idea that I was going to help elevate the brand a bit then. That wasn't my goal initially. But Rudy Schlocker, to his credit, Steve Bennett, and then ultimately everybody involved there, they just loved it. I think they love the enthusiasm in the brand. Now here I am giving this brand enthusiasm. I know nothing about their brand at all. They were the only one that said yes, and it could have been shit. I didn't know. I really didn't know. The only thing that kept me going, though, was that I had felt and seen some of the Dimebag stuff years prior that this other guy in Pittsburgh had, right around 1999 or 2000. In Guitar World magazine, Washburn had a full-page advertisement for a Les Paul style single-cut guitar called the Idol, and it was a WI-68, and the photo they used was a paint version called cognac. And I was so stunned by the finish, this cognac finish on this WI-68 idol. And it's burned and indelible mark in my head. I'm like, so when I was there for my first thing, I said, is the painter that painted that cognac idol, is he here? And he walked me down the Chewy. The first time I was in Washburn. And I said, dude, I don't know how many of those you made, but I said, can you make me 5 of them? And they looked at me, you want 5 USA Washburns? Bennett couldn't rate the sales order fast enough. I'm sorry to say that, but their non-dime stuff was not flying out of the custom shop. So, long story short is I believed in the brand that believed in me after other brands had told me to go, pound salt. That's how Boogie Street connected with Washburn. There's a lot of other factors involved, but that's the gist of it all. And then as soon as he landed, we would have these kind of conversations. Even before I think it was even before we really started doing Saturdays, maybe it was early. I remember Freddie and I just leaning back at the end of the day. What if?
What if we did this?
What? And he said to me one day, because we had a Nuno Betancourt in, because Bennett had told me about Nuno and the N4 were so popular because that was quote unquote their Strat style guitar. And Freddie was looking at that thing going, he goes, these things are really made pretty unbelievable. Like, what if we challenge them to make like import guitars like the USA? Because I had a negative connotation of imports before, but at the beginning, to me it's like, and Fred's like, no, why don't I'll call Tone Pros. We'll demand, in a nice way, that they use American hardware, Switchcraft switches. Well, when I presented that to Rudy and Steve and Matt Cantlin and those guys, they're like, well, we can absolutely do whatever you want. We'll try to challenge these couple factories we're using to duplicate the USA process the best they can. Now, it's going to cost you a little more on an import side. We do all this, but that it came from him, because I thought, so the idea was you had run-of-the-mill import guitars as we knew them in 2002, the run-of-the-mill pricing, Epiphones and LTDs and things like that. And then you had this huge vacuum of space before the USA pricing would start on all these companies. There was nothing in the middle. Well, we filled that spot.
Yep.
We went halfway in that halfway point, plenty of margin, and made it collectible
and affordable.
People
and the quality was top notch.
That was the formula. Now, I can assure you that I don't take credit for anything. People say we changed the industry in regards to some things. I don't know if we did or not, but I do know that idea of finding that sweet spot in the difference in pricing between standard imports and custom shop stuff, those price points are now being found mysteriously by other manufacturers. I think we were responsible for that.
Well, I will say, and I will definitely say that yeah, you didn't have that before we did it. And if you look at all these companies now with their custom runs, we did the custom runs before everybody, and everybody was jumping on it. And Boogie Street was innovative in a lot of things, and it caught the attention of a lot of manufacturers. And it was an accident. We sit around, having a good time on a Saturday, but we came up with a lot of good ideas, and that's exactly it. Now you've got, for someone who can't afford, a $3,000 guitar, but you know what? We'll give you one for $1,200. Yeah, so the body's made over there, and but we put on EMGs or Seymour Duncans, or we made sure that the
ebony fingerboards,
fingerboards, good, the binding, 7-ply binding, 5-pound binding. You made them look nice. We separated our imports, so you had the low line Walmart,
and pickups
guitars.
That was one of the big things
huge.
too.
So tuners,
that was the thing.
Hardware.
So you had the low line, which the main companies were putting out.
Yep.
And then you had the Boogie Street, which was, I touched them all. I touched every one.
Yeah.
And we made sure that everyone was above and beyond standard.
Yes.
You know, and you know, and that's what the difference in it was. And then you got to see all these other companies starting to introduce, like you said, we found that price point, but we had the quality. And hell, right now, if you go on and you look at the resale value of some of the Boogie Street ones, it's
3 times what it was.
Back
then. It's humbling. It's really humbling. I don't completely understand it.
It's the quality.
It's the market too.
They're limited, but the quality is second to none. You might as well just say it's a USA guitar. For now, everybody's using CC machines, you know, and right there you had the quality at an affordable price.
Yep.
And you know
that was the goal,
and that's exactly what it was. Come on, the lady on eBay that you know said that, you know, we were a non-brick and mortar store and kind of showed the world how to sell guitars online.
Yeah. Meg Whitman was the was it Meg Whitman? Yeah, Meg Whitman was the president of eBay, and for whatever reason she used Boogie Street as part of her conference call to the shareholders. Like, we were an example of, like, you know, a guy that starts at his house and just gets office space and does the entire thing online and on eBay. I was like, it's cool. We look back and said that, you know, we tried to move the needle a little bit. I mean, we ended up moving the needle a little bit, but we were just trying to survive and do cool shit.
We were just trying to survive, but we took the needle all the way off the red and broke the gauge. I mean, look at that. You were talking about, you know, these other big companies. They had no clue of how to work an internet. You know what I mean? How to sell online. We did fine.
We did.
Now look at all these other things. Musician's Friend and Sweetwater and all this shit. These guys are building giant companies. But, you know, if you want to think back, you know, at the beginning of the internet, you know, you're selling guitars out of Mount Lebanon, you know, out of an office in Mount Lebanon. And the next thing you know, we got, you know, it's going on and on and on, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And, you know,
it was still, to be honest with you, it was definitely, there's a lot of serendipity and a lot of luck. We got lucky too. We were at the right place at the right time, but we knew how to act.
You know how to do it.
I was never afraid to just try something, but we got very fortunate, and because it's like these two guys are so uber loyal, but everyone that has interacted with us over time, we had so much repeat business.
Well, that's what it is.
It was unbelievable, man.
But that's why
the
you had
Boogie Board, the community. It was
smart. It was smart marketing. It was a great product. You know, that's what, you know, when I met Elliot all those years later from Dean, he called me in and all the other guys. He goes, "Gentlemen, I want you to." He told, there was like other Dean employees there, and he goes, "This guy and his partner Eric, they gave us a run for our money. It was two guys, and they took on the whole industry." And, you know, and to hear that,
we didn't even have the endorsement.
Yeah,
they had the endorsement. We were just making BoogieBolt. We weren't making Dimebag signature guitars.
Yeah.
We would actually tell kids that would call us, they're looking for I want a Dimebag signature from Boogie Street. Well, we can't give that to you. You're gonna have to go to Dean. We would tell them that.
Yep.
We weren't trying to do anything we were completely above board. You know, no matter what some folks say from that era who did not take a shine to us, I'm sorry, we did everything above board.
We did it all right. We did it all legal, and that's exactly, you know, like I said, these two guys without a store gave us a run for our money. I figure, and look at the copycats that came out after us. You know, similar names, similar product. You know, making the product that we didn't. You know.
Oh yeah.
You know, but that was like that. But it's flattering in a way.
It's flattering.
But, you know, and then, you know, we branch off into other artists. You know, and you know, but we got those other artists on our own merit because the quality was there.
1,000,000%.
It's funny you mentioned Dean, because to the best of my knowledge or memory, that's why as soon as you said that about Elliot, that I started chuckling. And I noticed that they were the first people after you to all of a sudden, it was a limited edition, but it was the limited edition part of it was just like, say, the color. It wasn't so much there was that many differences or this. It was just like, say, one single thing, but it was like they just took your idea, like, we're going to slap a thing on the back, and it goes, oh, so now you're happy because you got number 4 or 5 or whatever your number is.
Yeah.
But there really wasn't what you just said.
The tangible difference.
The integrity and the business model and everything that was tied into, like, kind of like he said, it's like, all of a sudden you're just throwing shirts at me. You'd get a guitar from you, dude, and there'd be like a sticker, there'd be a patch, there'd be a
custom case,
and the whole thing was like a package that meant you feel like you were part of
Boogie Street experience.
Yes,
that's what it was.
And the Boogie Street family, the board and everything, you were part of something, and I think that still holds today because no one's been able to duplicate. There's been people that kind of took part of the name or did this or did that or whatever, but it's an original, and you can't duplicate an original.
No.
It's
and I would call him up and I'd tell him, I said, man, I'm here in Ireland and I'm watching a band. Dude's got a Boogie Street shirt and he's playing and he sees me and he's like, hey, it was great.
That was crazy.
It was great to see people.
Some guy in Italy too. You were in Italy.
Yes,
walking down some road or something. It's hey.
It's but that's it was fun, man. But it goes to show that worldwide, it made an impression worldwide. Yeah, everybody knows who Gibson is. Everybody knows who Fender is. Everybody knows, Dean and BC Rich and this, that, and the other thing. But you got to realize it's a small bunch of people, and they didn't call them Washburn guitars. They called them Boogie Street guitars. If you go on Reverb now, it's a Boogie Street Washburn.
Yeah.
And it's not taking anything away from Washburn, but they made incredible guitars for us out of the USA Custom Shop. Gil Vasquez and all those cats over there.
Oh, yeah.
They went above and beyond, and they made
Definitely.
it. But they made us what we wanted, and we made sure that we got the product that we wanted.
We were demanding at times, borderline unreasonable at times too. I've been called that. But,
what? It wasn't unreasonable because we knew what we wanted, and that was the thing with even the Korean factories or the overseas import factories. They'd sit around and this isn't what we asked for, and then they do it again. But you have to play the game. All right, let's cut to the chase. Give us what we want because we want to get these out there and do it. But and that was part of it. We weren't getting an import guitar. We were getting the best quality.
Oh, we were demanding that they build something different. Matt Cantlin, to his credit, he was part of that, interacting with the factories. Steve Bennett, obviously conduit of kind of like helping us lay out the specs and so our demands, and then Matt Cantlin making it happen. And if I'm going to be missing people in the picture, we appreciated so many people at US Music, Washburn, but it really was. Let's say you had a Washburn X series. That's what that was. The X.
Okay,
that's what it was.
Yeah, X50. Yeah,
X50. So our philosophy was, okay, this guitar is set neck. It's got a mahogany body and a maple veneer, a very thin wafer maple veneer. A rosewood fingerboard, some rather plain inlay, no binding, and non-brand tuners. Right. So we would take this well-playing, cool-looking guitar, and we would just tear it apart, like ebony fingerboard, multi-ply binding, Grover tuners, not import humbuckers, Seymour Duncans or EMGs or DiMarzios and some things. And if it was a Floyd, we would ask for a real Floyd Rose, right, as opposed to like a co-branded Floyd Rose with pop metal. We Switchcraft switches and everything had to be similar or if not equal to what would be put on a USA guitar, sometimes even more.
Yeah, I had a box of parts,
and
man.
we would do that, and then instantaneously now you're presenting to the public a guitar on par from a spec standpoint. The only question was, is the build quality going to be there? And I mean, I'm telling you, this first group of import runs we did, man, the Brutus, the Billy Club and the Diz Gillespie signature model, the first import Boogie Bolts we did. I mean, I got those in. I just could not believe the quality. I could not believe it. There were even the prototypes that I got that I used as the basis of whether or not we were going to do it were not as good as the actual quality on the run. The run was better than the proto.
Yeah. And Mikey Rice's kid just did an album, and he used his Billy Club. Man, figure how old those things are, and they still sound great. They're killer. They're fun. They're fun guitars to have. I don't have one.
Yes, you do. I just look back at I look back at those Saturdays as the most fun of all the 15 years of owning that company. And, the Washburn years comprised of the last, 10 years of that, 11 years. But of all the 15 years I owned Boogie Street, there's a lot of good times. But those Saturdays, it was you guys, and then, we had some other regulars. TJ would come up on a regular basis, and I'm sure I'm going to miss people here. It's not intentional. Old brain. But just the camaraderie. And there was so much that, because I'm a very average guitar player, and I'd be around people that knew about guitars, ins and outs, could shred like a demon, had unique styles from not just a playing standpoint, but from a conceptual standpoint. And I would hear all this feedback, and I just felt like that made me a better guitar dealer, a guitar person in the business. It helped me round out my opinion, and I will absolutely be forever grateful for that. I want you guys to know that. I mean, it's a little syrupy and sappy. I'm sorry, but Saturdays were everything to me. I mean, we were there for. That's why
it was still there.
It would start at like 10, and sometimes we leave till 7 or 8 that night.
Yeah. Oh bullshit! It's 9 o'clock at night. Get fucking bed. Down to strip club again. You and your friends playing guitar, are you? Kids are hungry. Your dinner's cold.
Are you coming home today?
Oh, I bet you're going to go back tomorrow too, huh?
No, the Steelers are on. I'm not going back tomorrow.
I remember when we were actually being overtaken by cardboard boxes for a while there.
Oh yeah.
I remember you had pictures of me climbing up on top of all those.
Oh yeah.
So we're looking for 24. Find 24.
So we had all these runs of guitars. They're all numbered, and luckily for us, they did number the boxes. Luckily for him.
Yeah, for me.
And Steve would come up and help me ship, because we were so busy that he's typically always on the road. Like really, you were for the and you were coming up and like shipping for me. I think we worked out an arrangement or something, and then you'd work all day at the garage and then come up there and ship.
The ghetto.
And I was starting to learn back in 2006. I was starting to do something called the Boogie Street weekly video message or something, or monthly video message, or whatever it was. The web was young, message boards before social media. I think MySpace was there, but who the hell ever paid attention to that? But we started filming stuff. Yeah. Rudimentary, but yeah. And I've got some very cool and funny clips of both of you.
Let's look at them right now.
But just, I don't know if we were just so tired and punch drunk, because half the stuff I look at, it's like, I'm like, that's kind of funny, but pretty fucking corny.
But the cool thing was, when we would do that during the week, usually it was just you and me. Sometimes Fred would be there, because I would come up, after working all day, and it was like an outlet for me, because you know how bad those days sucked.
Oh, yeah.
So I would, we would be stupid. We'd do what we had to do, but we'd be stupid, and it was fun.
The Boogie Street Elf.
The elf? Oh, yeah. I'd do the elf dance for you, but I might be too old now. I'd give it a try if you want.
We had so many cardboard boxes in this place. I mean, I was probably a fire trap, but they said it was 2,000 square feet, and at least I don't think it was quite that big. But at one point, I think we counted, we had like 600 guitars in there at one time.
We had a lot of guitars, man.
We lined them up all by Fallen Idols, Billy Clubs, BoogieBolts, whatever, numerical order that way.
And there are runs of 100 or 50 or 100.
Man, this guy, he bought 27. Oh, there it is. But it was also, when they would come in the door, he would look at them. They would get looked at again before they went out. Like he mentioned, it's the whole package deal.
Yeah.
You pull them out, you'd look at it, make sure it was good again before you sent it out. Here's a T-shirt, hat, whatever, DVD.
Yeah, DVD.
No, nobody.
We'll get there.
I'll say nobody did that.
Well, okay. I want to go to our video productions here shortly, but once in a while I would get a question from someone who would say, why is this guitar so expensive? Like, why is this import idol so expensive? And part of the reason was because we have to remind them that it's spec'd completely different. All the specs are upgraded. it's built at a different factory oftentimes too to have that done over there. But the other thing is, every guitar got taken out, not import guitar, got taken out of the case, inspected by us after it's already been inspected at Washburn, inspected by us, set up by Fred, sometimes photographed and recorded, put back in the case, sealed up. I mean, there was so much attention to what we did that we had to sometimes educate folks. I say, I know it's not typical for you to pay X amount of dollars for an import guitar. That's what the industry's been. This is not that experience. This is something different.
Yeah.
That took a while, I think, for some people to grasp that concept.
It did. But
they got it, though.
But what you did was, it's like Fred said, even Arun said it too. You took. You either pay $399 or you pay $5,000. There was never, and for somebody who was, early 20s, whatever, you gave them an option. Mm-hmm. And once you expose them to that, they come back for more. And that's what happened. I mean, like you said, look how many repeats we had.
Oh, the Boogie Street family wasn't just insane. I never understood it. I mean, I was so grateful for it, but I was like,
they never had an experience like that.
And it was, and the boogie board was so great because Facebook just killed it. It just did. For I used to say for better or worse, it was for worse. Ultimately, we've had Facebook long enough to know that it was for worse. The boogie board gave people time to breathe a little bit before they would respond. It would get heated once in a while with some folks, but that message system isn't like instant, like like social media is today. And I think having slower internet and having a more archaic, system for messaging made it nicer.
Yeah.
It was more communal.
Yes.
Very rarely was there any negative comment.
These guys just like moderators, just get rid of them, just ban them.
I only remember one bad actor.
There was a couple.
I only remember one that stuck out because I remember you mentioned him at least a couple of times, because that was the other thing about every Saturday. It wasn't just, there was the guitars part about it, there was the humor part about it, but there was also all the different stuff that you would possibly, and that was emerging. I got music out of you that I probably wouldn't have got from anywhere else, and it stuck with me. Oh yeah. Since the whole Django Reinhardt was like, there's no way I would have got that. There was different. It wasn't just about metal, what I should say. It was more of it was a guitar community, and nobody, I don't think, ever slanted everybody for whatever you liked or didn't like. It was a very accepting thing, and that made it great.
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's like what I recognized by watching him play one night was that
I needed lessons.
No. What I would have you guys do is, I wanted Fred to do this, but he rarely would ever do it. But I wanted to film little video clips of you playing the new guitars as they came in, whether it was sometimes just like your fingers, or the guitar itself, or like a full shot of you doing it. And what I learned was that
I needed lessons.
Yes, indeed. In the end, it was very aware. It was very, how do I say, obvious to me. In the end, it's just a guitar, and whether this genre is metal, this genre is alternative, this is country, this is pop, whatever. That's all kind of a self-defined thing.
After the fact.
100%.
Yeah, just because you pick up that guitar doesn't necessarily mean you have to.
Like, I used to watch him play all this crazy metal, and then he'd go grab a different guitar, put it in the neck humbucker position, roll off the tone and roll off the volume and play some kind of crazy, which I obviously recognize as a jazz lick, which he denies it to this day. But I'm saying is I realize that I am here doing this business to make people happy, because the guitar itself is an incredible freaking tool and can be used in so many million ways. And here I am making things that play good, hopefully they sound good and they look good. But in the hands of that person, it's like a joystick, man. It's like, and I didn't realize that in its entirety until watching you play and seeing a different style of play come out of you. This little metalhead, the hitman, it's like, and it was so obvious. I'll never forget that. I was like, wow, this is something bigger is happening here.
But that's what it does to you. If you get something, Arun will probably be attest to it better than anybody. He's better than me, but if you pick up the right one, you just sit there, it'll just start coming out of you. You know, it's just a feel. If it's doesn't quite feel right, you'll be like, hey, you know, that's you're expressing yourself through that guitar. So if it feels right and it feels good, I mean, you can just you'll come up with all kind of new stuff, and it just flows, man.
That's why I have so many.
I agree.
I got to find the right one.
I agree.
You too, especially. Some call that an addiction, but yeah, we'll leave that for another
You're
day.
a dealer, Eric. You were my dealer.
It's good to see a fellow junkie across it. Yeah, same deal. You were my dealer too, man, for sure.
And it was, and I would get all these calls back. I remember Fred. Fred was in Chicago, and I'll never forget this. I think you were with Willie G once, and you guys were hanging out after the show, and you're like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, obviously talking to you on the phone, Fred." And no one believes that you don't have a guitar collection. Everybody that's in this room, I think they were drinking. They were all in this room, and and you said, "No one believes that you don't have a guitar collection." I said, "I don't have a guitar collection." Fred goes, "Well, I know you don't, but no one believes that. So I'm gonna put you on speakerphone." I'm like, this is a weird call. So he puts me on his phone, and I'm like, yeah, I'm Eric McKenna, and I don't have a guitar addiction problem, but I'll sell to someone who does. All day long.
He got it good, man.
Where were you when you called?
I can't even remember. Might have been Chicago. Maybe it was somewhere.
I think it was Chicago.
So I want to make the point that, and this is just kind of like my personal connection to guitars in general, because to me there's like a spiritual, magical thing at every one of them. More so with the Boogie Streets, of course, but there's been such a, you know, like you talked about the guy that, you know, why is this guitar special? And the educational level of just guitar players and guitarology, I'm just going to say in general, since then it's exploded to where nowadays you probably wouldn't get that often of a question like that. And where I'm going is that, like, they say a 59 Les Paul was worth, you know, how many millions of dollars. And to me, that's one of the great magical things, and probably why I mess with as many guitars as I do of mine and love my Boogie Street so much, is that they're eternal. Mm-hmm. You know, someday all four of us aren't going to be here, but there's going to be kids with the guitars that we used to play doing what you said with the magic, you know, creating something that's just it's not just taking them somewhere, it's taking everybody that's lucky enough to hear whatever they're doing, it's taking them someplace. And I don't think it's ever a bad place, you know. And if it does take you to that bad place, it's like music. Sometimes you just got to face stuff, and music helps you face it so you can get through it. Mm-hmm. And to me, as a guitar player, nothing is equivalent of that on this earth. There just isn't. There's just nothing that has that magic.
1,000%. And I think that's why I was compelled to the instrument, and why I told him multiple times. I said, "This is going to sound corny as shit, so drink another one." But I said, we're not in the guitar business, Fred. We are in the happiness business.
That's right.
And I wanted that Boogie Street experience thing. I wanted to, you know, we talked about this. This isn't anything new. This is like 20 years ago. I want them to open that freaking custom case with a custom plush interior,
leopard skin.
And I want them to be overwhelmed from the experience from the moment they get it.
And it was.
Will it be 100%? No, there'll be some people that probably, you know, you can't please everybody.
One.
But but generally speaking, that, you know, I think the repeat business is a testament that we struck a nerve with people, and it also showed people too that, you know, maybe as a guitar player spending a significant amount of money on things, you know, maybe you deserved a little more in terms of attention and custom and all that stuff. You know, I mean, I was a consumer too of guitars before I got into the business, and I can't say I was always overwhelmed by the process of buying a guitar.
Yeah, but if you walk into a chain, you're not going to get the same experience. You know what I mean? Even if you know people that work there.
Chain. He avoids saying the name.
Yeah, I don't want to get nobody in trouble. But if you remember,
it's a Guitar Center.
Okay.
We'll let you say it.
I'll have no problem saying it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love seeing our guitars at Guitar Center. We put a giant price tag.
But I've actually had great. It's funny. I have great experiences at Guitar Center now. Great. When we were in business, we were the devil. in Pittsburgh.
That one for everybody.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, dude, we're really not in competition here. Really, I do a very specific niche thing.
Yep.
You have every brand imaginable. I mean, like, why the animosity? I'm here to buy strings off you. Sell me some damn strings.
That should have been my fault.
There was so
Why did you?
I used to. I don't know if you remember. I know Fred was with me at least once or twice. We would leave Saturday, and I would have something new, like a custom dimers, and I would go down there.
So
like,
that might be why they treat you like shit.
Yeah.
Our friend Hartman used to work down there for a little while, didn't he?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he worked down there.
I remember he. I had a guitar I bought off of eBay. It was a signed 332, dime 332.
Yeah.
And then when I got that, I bought that Culprit, which I still have.
Cool.
And
A heavy guitar.
so I took that 332. Nick was a dime fan too, so I took it down there. And I said, "Hey man, I want to show you this." And I let him look at it. He's like, "Oh, that's cool." I said, "You like that?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Here, just take it." I gave it to him. And then right in the middle of Guitar Center, and all these guys started coming around. And they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Just take it, man. I got another one. I bought the Culprit." So
Right on.
and then that could have been where it all started. I don't know.
That probably did. They knew he was with me, and he's pretty identifiable no matter where he goes.
yeah,
so I'm
walking
sure.
in the Guitar Center with a Boogie Street shirt on.
Yeah.
Hey guys.
But it's funny though, because Nick ended up. I hooked them guys up. I remember bringing them up to meet you. And in fact, I saw the show you did with the Climos and John Fedlock.
Yeah.
I saw that one.
Yeah.
I miss them guys. They're good guys.
Oh yeah, the Climb Up Brothers are great. Hippies, just I mean, he was Hippie's definitely part of the Boogie Street story too. He had a lot of guitars. Didn't see him as often, but it just there was just a genuineness to the people that we. And please don't take this the wrong way in this uber sensitive world we live in here. The people that we let in, to the inner workings of the Pittsburgh, there was just a genuineness there. You couldn't really get in if you weren't that kind of person.
Right.
I mean, not that there was a litmus test, but if we didn't feel the vibe, you weren't coming. Because there was something to protect, of course, too. If we didn't know
we
somebody.
don't want to give the secret handshake out.
The high sign.
Give them the high sign, But yeah, no, but that's part of the thing too. It wasn't a brick and mortar store to hang out and play Stairway to Heaven in.
Although that happened.
Oh, yeah, it happened.
And I remember walking in it around that particular time. I'd come into pianos and stuff, and it'd be like, "It's another Boogie Street guitar." And they were never negative about it, but I could tell they were just like so many people just didn't get what you were doing.
I think they were mad too that not pianos and stuff, but I think a lot of dealers were mad because the web was still not really fully adopted by folks even in the mid 2000s. It wasn't there. So if you had a mom and pop store, which is again not pianos and stuff, but if you have those stuff out throughout the country, and they feel like they're getting their clock cleaned by the internet folks.
Cats with
and there was, we kind of fell into that internet folks genre naturally. So I think it was more ignorance, intellectual ignorance of the circumstance, as opposed to no ill feelings at all.
No, it wasn't ill feelings, but it was like I said, it didn't quite get it, and because if you didn't get something, you kind of naturally felt threatened to a certain extent by the business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you said, with.
Well, they're great people, man. I bought things off of them. Them Hollywood, Don and those guys. I mean, I bought when I started to play guitar as a middle-aged person, right? I started playing in '97, so it wasn't like I did have a guitar in the '80s, but I couldn't play. I played drums. But I started for serious in '97, so it wasn't too many years before I started Boogie Street that I did it. But I bought a PS10 off of the guys in '98 off of pianos and stuff, and I bought my first acoustic off of Hollywood all in like the same week, and then 3 years later, I'm like trying to buy stuff off their wall and turn around and sell it on eBay, which I did at Johnny B. Good's quite a bit. They were good people, but. No, I think there was some ignorance to just intellectual ignorance about the market in general. The internet was scary to a lot of folks in the beginning.
Yeah.
They were, we heard, Fred and I also heard this early on, which blew my mind. But, well, this internet thing is going to run its course, and you're going to be stuck with all those guitars. It's going to dry up. And I'm like, I know the internet's been around like 10 years now. I think it's not going anywhere. But we heard that too.
Well, I think too. Back, I don't think it's so much now. For anyone to buy a guitar that they hadn't physically held in their hand was still such a strange alien idea back then.
Like, we got to talk about that because, it
was a big deal.
Every interview that I ever did, not that there's thousands of them, but there's some. I used to say the following phrase. And they said, "Well, how'd you get started?" I'm like, "Well, it was an anomaly that we survived because." What I learned very quickly with vintage players and guitarists in general, before the web, it was like, who the hell would buy a guitar sight unseen?
Yeah.
Guitarists want to feel, play, they want to connect with that piece. And then they'll stand there think about it for an hour or two before they purchase, or go home and come back the next day. But I knew that the superficial part of the whole equation was the aesthetics. And Americans and the world, but definitely Americans, they love custom things. And I could make guitars that are great, but they could look cooler than the other guy. And that's in the beginning in my brain. That's where I was with it. If I ever get a chance to design, I know I can make things that look more badass. And then I said, I can also upgrade the specs. Fantastic. And
we can still make it affordable.
That was even. And
I think, if I remember correctly, there was something else that worked in your favor, was the fact that if I remember with the BC Rich, they were always such a convoluted company. If I'm not using the right word, but and I'm not even getting anywhere near the serial numbers. But there was always, you talk about Gibson. Well, BC Rich was probably worse than, talk about records all that stuff.
Most definitely.
So I remember when I got the Silver Sparkle GMP Mockingbird off you, it wasn't like you had spec'd that out. You just got lucky, and because BC Rich was unstable, their GMP was painting some of their custom shop guitars, so you got a double bonus. That
1,000%. And the BC Rich thing was the gentleman who had that guitar store locally that I got initially introduced to Washburn by also was trying to be a BC Rich dealer. And at that time, in 2002, BC Rich was Hanser and Davitt, I think, in Cincinnati.
It was in Cincinnati.
Yeah. It was the name of the company who bought the rights off of Bernie Sr., I think, around that time passed. And he became a dealer. And I was trying to tell this guy, I said, hey, man, will they make me an online dealer? And, of course, I was told no. So I made an arrangement with him. I'm like, let's go down there. And I'll just keep my mouth shut and I'll act like your business partner. And I'll commit a certain amount of money, and I'll just channel you get the guitars, and you'll channel them through me, so you don't even have to worry about putting them online because he wasn't real great about doing it. And I'll do all of that. That's how it started. And BC Rich simply could not deliver. The custom shop down there was just, they were nice people, but I got a couple guitars in. We finally got a couple, and they came in and they just snipped the fret edges and never even took a file to any of them. You would literally cut your fingers if you possibly started to play this thing. And I couldn't believe they would send a guitar out that way. And immediately, I'm like, okay, whatever I got in stock, I'll slowly, and that was part of the pieces you bought, I'll slowly get rid of them. But these two here, I have to have completely redone. So I was thinking, whatever they're going to turn into, I don't want to work with them because I don't think they're ready. Their current manufacturer is not ready to do it right. So I probably could have had I gone back and revisited it with them, but Washburn was how it worked out.
For the record, folks, that's where Eric stole me from, that store.
Kinda, yeah. Well, sorry. I mean, the owner was a cool guy.
Yeah,
and he's not around anymore. He's I think in Florida or something. And cool people that were there. There was absolutely no bad feelings. It was just I don't think that he wanted to be. I don't think he was going to be here long in Pittsburgh. And I could just see the writing on the wall. And I'm like, well,
he didn't plan on it.
Yeah, I just feel. Got to stay out of those strip clubs, I hear.
That's what it is.
But I don't have anything, for sure. I just know it was an opportunity. I saw the window, and
he snagged me up. He said, "Hey, man."
Well, that's not. I didn't know that. I didn't even actually. I saw you photographed there a couple times with Nick on a promo. I saw that, but that was after the fact. I wasn't even aware you were there. So no, I didn't know of that relationship.
I think I set up some BC Riches for you there. Is what it was. That's how. I did your BC Rich work there.
Oh, well, I couldn't. I don't know. My story's cooler because it's true. But I still don't know. I still to this day don't know how you got in. I didn't give you a key.
Who knows? I was drunk. I don't know. I just showed up.
Did someone at Froggy did you convince the Froggy or neighbors Froggy Radio? Did they let you in?
I think the door was unlocked.
No, there's just no way. I was a little paranoid about things at the time. There's just no way.
I have no idea.
Yeah, okay.
I can't. I have
someday
no recollection.
I'm going to figure that out. Do you remember when we started doing videos, like the weekly video message?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You guys had no problem being on video. And then we did the very first. You were there for it. You were there for it. He was not, because it was before Diamond passed. But you were there. The very first, you were there because you introduced me to the filmographer.
No, Josh.
Is it Ryan and Josh, or is it Josh Malin?
Yeah, right.
And who's the other gentleman?
He's gonna.
That's okay.
Can't think of the other name.
But I made the first Boogie Street promo DVD.
Dave,
and we filmed it December. Maybe I think it was November 11th
cold.
Or something.
It was cold.
2004, and we did a 20-minute expo. And you were out on tour. We had to film your snippets later, but you were out on tour with Shinedown.
Could have been Zach then.
Okay. I think it was. Yeah, it was.
But anyways, yeah, and we did the first video presentation. I was so proud of that thing. I think it was like 24 minutes long or something. And we talked about, and this is before things really exploded, right? We had a mixture of used product and then this new Washburn arrangement that we had on paper, but things hadn't really progressed yet. But we had the idea of custom stuff, the Boogie Street experience, the customer service, the t-shirts, the stickers, the brand identity. And it's up there. And then we did 3 years later the big project, which was let's talk about that. We did a project called the second video called
The Deuce.
The Boogie Street Guitars, The Deuce. Hired a guy, Michael Ray.
Yeah.
Detroit.
Who ultimately, I think, did a great job, especially for how involved it became. We started filming December 30th of 2005. It was finished
like June?
sometime in March of 2007. So we had quite the... By the time it was done, it was like a 6 DVD set of just like a dump truck full of stuff.
I think that's actually what you called it, the BSG dump truck.
We had a disc in there called the dump truck, and it was just we were just trying to give people more, and that was a bit excessive, but we wanted to give people a feel for every freaking thing we were doing. We had like a 30-minute video walkthrough of the Washburn Custom Shop. We had you guys playing. We had comedy bits. We had Nick Catanese and Freddie talking about Dime and the Black Label experience and things. We had a lot of. We had you playing on there. We had a lot of things that. And a lot of crazy nonsense that it gave people a little glimpse of what Saturdays kind of had become. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember the days filming that?
Oh yeah, both of them, the first one and the second one.
It was. I remember being cold that winter for the second one.
They were both filmed during the winter.
Yeah.
They were both cold.
I remember it was like this. It was so strange because Washburn had all these guitars to send us. They were being staged there, and Fred's like, they're gonna get pissed if you got to have a place to send these guitars to you. Bennett says they're there, and I'm like, well, I got this area in the corner of the room. We got these drapes with these camera lightings and all this stuff, and Fred's like, well, they're gonna get pissed. I said, Fred, I paid for them. I goes, oh, okay, forget about it. So we committed a portion of our floor space to that whole operation, and it went on and on and on
and on.
Yeah.
You probably had a couple more ons.
Yeah, and then at first it was a 3-month. It was sold to me as like a 3-month project. We're going to give you a 2-disc set, maybe 3 if you want it. And then it expanded into our relationship with Bruce Kulick, and then Michael went out and interviewed Bruce Kulick for us, and there's a Scott Ian which had to give us a shout out, and I was so proud of the whole thing. But I learned that it was the first time that maybe we took our eye off the prize a little bit. Like, we're not in the video production business. We're trying to sell our. We were
just so excited about all the things because we were expanding so big then. We had Scotty and we had Nuno, we had Donegan, we had Donye, we had everybody, we had all these new things. We had Nick, we still had the Dimes at the time. And
Paul Stanley, by the time it was done,
Paul Stanley was around. We had Paul by the time it was done. And that was it. We were here we are expanding into a world where you didn't go against these things. You're up against huge guitar companies, and we're winning.
It was overwhelming. I remember one of the coolest moments. We'll get to the Stanley stuff eventually here, but Michael Ray goes, "You think Paul Stanley will let you use some of his songs for the DVD?" I'm like, "Oh God, Fred, I don't know if I have the balls to ask him that, because I don't know how copyright works and all that stuff." And I text Paul. I said, "Hey, any chance we can use Live to Win music for the CD, a DVD we're doing promo?" He's like, "Absolutely, go with it or run with it." I'm like, I still have that email. How cool is that, right? Yeah. I'm able to take this guy's music and use it. And it was like, you wrote background music for that on the first one and the second one. Yep. Yeah, soundtrack to it.
That was the outro music on the second one, and there was an acoustic tune of mine on the first one.
Yep. And you had a comedy bit called A Song. You had a song on the second one called In the Ghetto.
Welcome to the ghetto. Well, it is always a show. I don't know. You can't get away with that. Yeah, you can't get away with that now, though.
You worked in the ghetto, so
I did. Yeah, I saw the.
Got to put that backstory disclaimer in there. He works in the ghetto.
Yeah,
I
used to. Yeah,
crackheads run their mouth or something.
Something about government cheese. I could probably rehash it, but like I said, we're a different time now. They'll be waiting for us outside.
It wasn't set out of any malice, but it was.
Man, I was just down there the other day, like 2 nights ago. I was driving down Bomb Boulevard. And I'm like, yeah.
It's an Aldi's now, I think.
I think it is. Yeah. I think it is. Now, I'm dead serious, man. I was down in there, and I was going down deep in Sliberty, and I just kept going out. I'm like, this is where Steve used to work, and I'm like, locking the doors.
What else do you remember about the filming? Remember Michael Ray would always show up with a bunch of different people. Like there's like the first time we'd film, there'd be like this crew of people, and then they come back again, and there'd be like 2 of the regulars, but then a whole new. I'm like, how many fucking people do you know, dude? Like the crew kept changing.
And it almost turned into like, now you need catering, so here's the bagels and
oh my God, there was trust me, yeah. I remember trying to explain to my wife at the time why the budget bill for that particular project was, which initially was like $600, but after like there was rooms and everything else, it was like $5,000. I'm like, and that's when I felt like we really like took a sled ride down the. The path. This is not guitar. This is ego driven. Like
well, that's what it was. We were happy.
Yeah, we were happy and all that. But I realized that it was kind of like, it's we want to show people what we're doing, but at the same time, we don't have to.
It's like when you see somebody go, "These are the pictures of my kids," and then you got 30 kids
falls out.
But that's all it was. It's just we were proud of what we were doing, of what we were accomplishing. And look at this baby, and look at this Washburn, and look at this. And that's what it was, because we had so much to show, because we started with absolutely a small office, and now we're in a big giant office, and we've got Leonard Skinner coming down the hall to see us, and Leanne Rhymes and shit like that. You know,
I forgot about that.
And you know, these people were, and they wore Boogie Street shirts on the
Country Music Awards.
Country Music Awards. You know, we were proud of a lot of things. I mean, a lot of good stuff.
We got a good laugh out of it too. Like we would sit back and say, "I don't know, fuck did that happen?" I mean, like, why?
and what's funny is years later, man, I was over in fuck me, I want to say it was Germany, and we were playing on a festival, and Skinner was there, and I ran into Vince, and he's like, "Hey man, you that guy from that guitar place that's in the radio station?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh man." So but they remember, this is a rock star.
Yeah.
Wow. And he remembers years later, and we're in Germany, and he's like, "Hey man, you that guy?" You know, and yeah,
it's the hair.
I remember that picture of him. I remember that picture of him on stage. The cool thing about, like, you know, you got that person, but for me, you know, just being the guy in my own little music cave, seeing the pictures of Van Zandt with the shirt on. There was the dude from Overkill that was playing a BoogieBolt, and I was just like, I felt like I was part of that. And I think you were. Every other person, like, you know, for as much content there wasn't in that.
Corey Taylor did the same thing. Yeah, he had a White Lightning.
And Jason had shined, and a Zebrawood.
Yeah, you know, I mean, so exactly, you see these cats, and you're like, wow. I had to have seen that guitar in the studio.
Yes,
I probably touched that guitar and played. You know, me, I know I touched it, but you know, but we've all sat around. We played them as they came in. I'm, hey, check us out, make sure it plays okay. You know, you guys were my quality control, but you know, because I suck. But you know, but again, when you see, you know, Corey Taylor playing like Through the Glass, and he's got a White Lightning up there, and Jason had a White Lightning and a BoogieBolt, and Scott Ian had a, you know, it's a picture on the wall of the Southern Cross.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, it just to actually see the product that we had in our offices
blowing up like that was
blowing up. You know, and you know, even the Black Label stuff that went out. You know, all these things came through Boogie Street. And you guys played them and touched them, and now here's your rock star out there playing it, you know, and it was cool.
It's still cool as shit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It's still a thrill ride.
Yeah,
these years later.
I remember watching how excited you were, and you indirectly, but you were about the Dimebag stuff. Like it meant so much to you, you know. I remember we started working with Scott Ian, and I remember like Arun's really a big Scott Ian fan. At one point in his life was probably a huge Scott Ian fan when we were even younger.
Yeah,
but it was like that's a big moment, you know. And Fred, nothing phases Fred because he's just, you know, he's met all these people on the road, and I used to go to Washburn on a regular basis because Rudy Schlocker was just so good to us. Bennett, all those guys, we were so welcome when we go there. Yes, we were spending money. We were doing cool shit, and I think it was appreciated. And I used to always tell Rudy, you know, everything. I said, you got to bring Paul Stanley back to Washburn. And I was just joking because I figured, I mean, I have his ear. I might as well just throw it out there anyways. You know, because at the time, I think Paul was with Silvertone or something like that. So, and I'll never forget this, man. I think you were there. Were you there? It was. I know it was a day. It was in the daylight. It might have been during the week. I don't know. I'm walking around my office, and Larry English calls me from Washburn. Another fantastic individual. He was artist relations, and to me, he's an industry legend. But he said, "Eric," he goes, "I got some good news for you today." Now I have no idea what he's talking about. Maybe I thought there was a special run of guitars coming my way from because that's what happened. He said, "You're going to get a phone call. Do you have caller ID?" I go, "I think I do." Yeah, I mean, it was like 2006, right? He says, "Yeah, no matter what it says on caller ID, you just get the phone call in the next couple minutes, all right? You will not be disappointed." Now, I have no idea what this is going to be. Nothing initially comes to my mind, right? And I answered the phone. I think it said no something, or it didn't say blocked. It said private or something on there. They used to say private for they could hide their numbers. And I said, "Eric McKenna." "Eric, it's Paul Stanley." And I'm like, I literally thought I was being punked. I thought I was being punked. And I just remember going, holy shit. not thinking he was coming back to Washburn. I thought maybe it was just Larry just doing me a solid. He was talking to him because they knew each other from the Washburn round 1 back in the 90s. Cool. He goes, I just re-signed with Washburn and I saw your work and you're part of the reason I'm coming back. Let's build some amazing stuff or something like that. I'm like, I mean, I said, yeah, man, for sure. I said, I don't know what to say. I'm just absolutely thrilled. We're going to do it. I'm coming to Pittsburgh in a couple months on my solo tour after I finish up these KISS gigs over in Japan. But look online tonight or tomorrow or the next day, but you're going to see my new design. Let me know your unvarnished opinion of that. I go, okay, cool. So I hang the phone up. I don't know. I tried to call you. I'm losing my mind, naturally. And I go home, and literally on Guitar World magazine's website or somewhere, Brave World or something, I don't know what it was, but there's a picture of KISS in Japan with Tommy Thayer, these new guys. They're going to like solidify. It was 2006. They had like 3 gigs over in Japan. They weren't touring. They were just 3 gigs. And Stanley standing there with this PS 800. This is his new thing. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm like,
we don't have any on the walls, do we?
I'm like, okay. I mean, I didn't say what the hell is that. Well, maybe I did, but I'm like, that looks like a BC Rich that didn't get finished. You know, like that can't be what he's going to go with. But I mean, I'm not going to turn it down, but I'm like, that, oh man, that's not, I could do so much better than that. Like, let me do some things there, you know? And as it turns out, years later, not years later, but like months later, when he went back to PS 2000 for a while, he bagged that. He said, yeah, that PS 800, that's kind of like my Etzel, you know? And I'm like, but the point was, Paul Stanley had arrived, and that was when I probably got the biggest thrill of the year, the Boogie Street years, because I felt
no.
I think because I do think
no, don't let him bullshit you. The biggest thrill he got was when he went and met Paul.
Oh, well, yeah, for sure.
And we, because Paul was on the USA side of everything, you know.
Initially, yeah.
And then we showed him Boogie Street Guitars.
Yes.
And we started, you know, at the show. But someone...
It's a solo tour. It
was a solo
Greensburg,
tour.
yeah.
Someone...
it was hard to talk, man.
They couldn't talk. But we did. We gave him a shirt. We gave him
a couple shirts.
We gave him a couple shirts. And
we gave him a couple guitars, too.
Gave him a couple guitars.
For Evan.
And he liked them so much because they were Boogie Street guitars, and we did his.
Yeah, I said to him, we're doing some really unique stuff on the import side, way beyond what you're probably used to seeing.
And he didn't want to do imports.
I know. He's like, really? And I said, yeah, no low end stuff here. I'm not interested in doing that. And
he played our Boogie Street stuff and then gave him to Evan.
And then I think I reached out to him or something, like a month or two later, in January of 2007. I said, I'd like to take that preacher design, that USA. I had ordered a bunch of the USA preachers because I knew about the preacher being built by Gil Vasquez right after the phone call.
Yep.
I said, that KISS guitar is not going to go into production right away because we're working on a single cut for him. And I thought that shape was just amazing. Like, that's a whole other story why that never got proliferated. But the preacher was being made. And I said, oh man, we could do an import run of those. I bet you we could really knock that out of the park. And he didn't want to do it initially, but
he played some Boogie Street stuff, and he called back and said, let's do it. And we did. And you know what was great about the other part of Boogie Street too is, like you said, the case candy and stuff like that but you also got their certificates of authenticity.
Yeah, and he signed them.
He would sign them.
I mean, that
do them in a day.
It blew me away. Yeah,
we did 100 of these.
You print them up. Let me see what they look like ahead of time. I didn't do that on the first run. I heard about it, but he agreed to sign whatever.
Yeah,
you know? And we didn't abuse it.
No, we'd send them out. We'd send them 100 here to do it at your leisure, and they'd be FedEx back like 2 days later.
Yep.
Man, some of these cats, you'd sit around and say, "Hey, man, I got 100." Months later,
because he's a businessman.
Yeah. So he got it. and he saw someone else who saw the value of Boogie Street. Somebody that sat around and saw that we're busting our ass here to give you a good product, because that's exactly what it was. The quality was, I think that the quality of those guitars and
grab that's right behind you.
Yeah,
it's right there.
I mean, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we're talking about.
The 8500,
and it's fantastic, and it plays. It's like butter. And back in the day, every time somebody would ask me about I don't know where I got the word fantastic. Oh, this thing's fantastic. Every review had the word fantastic. And even if I wrote a review, it was fantastic.
Yeah, it is your most overused
yes,
word.
And other than that, I never used that word ever. Only when I describe guitars. But I mean, this is what we came up with, and
don't get me wrong, Paul. That was Paul's shape completely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all Paul except.
But this is a.
It's the binding.
It's a set neck and binding, and but it's an import.
Yep.
It plays just like a USA. It feels like a USA.
So we get these in, and they send us like 4 or 5. And what really puzzled me was the factory did something odd. They sent a prototype, but they also sent 4 or 5 of the numbered run, like 12, that one. And I'm thinking to myself, did they already just make the whole run and the prototype? Because I felt deceived initially. Because I order a prototype because I want to see the prototype, and then if I want to change something, I'll change it. But they sent me the prototype and like numbered pieces of the run. Luckily for us, it was a home run. Yeah. We sent Fran like 4 of those immediately. Just show them all to Paul, see if something resonates with them. I have no problem letting him keep one. Just see what, And like about a week later, I get this voicemail. I missed his phone call, but I have the voicemail recorded, and he just loved it.
Yeah.
And he goes, "I'm not giving it back." So we got to figure that out. Well, he ended up using that for the Australian leg of the Live the Win tour, which you sit and think about it. It's he's like one of the richest men in rock. He's not going to play shit live. But this was an import guitar that he was perfectly fine taking on stage and playing live. That was one of the most amazing moments of success that we had. Forget the money. It was like, that's validation for me. Childhood hero, playing a guitar that I helped create for him.
I remember not comprehending him playing an import guitar, because I grew up with a view of Kiss, and I can't believe that this guy's playing an import guitar. And I have one. I have number 13.
Yep.
But think about this, though. So take that experience that you had. You got to create something with your hero. Mm-hmm. So if you kind of back that off to the normal guy like me, who, if I'm buying something from you, you have Fred working on your stuff. That kid who buys that guitar from you feels that way, that Fred who's worked with Zach and Jason Todd and all these guys.
I get it.
He touched that. It's the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a level of validity.
It is.
Yeah, and specialness. Yeah, I totally get it. And it's the thing that you have to work hard at. I had to work hard at it, and I wasn't always good at it, but not taking it for granted. Like, it was very easy for me to take the whole Boogie Street thing for granted as I go along. And every time we had a moment of success, I talk about, it was fantastic. I never really, that's the one quote-unquote regret I do have, is I didn't enjoy the little moments of success as we went along, because I think we were always looking at what's the next thing.
That's what happens.
What's the next thing?
Hindsight 2020. There was so much going on.
It was happening so fast.
Yeah. I feel the same way, because looking back, it seemed like it was so much happened in a short space of time, and in so many ways too. Like, you brought up the Preacher. That was a turning point for me, because even when you showed me the shape, I was like, oh, that's cool. And it's not, because I was never really into the Paul Stanleys before. Right. Cool guitar, but it wasn't my thing. And I'm like, well, that's kind of like a Les Paul. And he was like, yeah, that's like a Les Paul, but it's better. It's not like it. And you didn't. It wasn't like you elevated the Idol and pushed the Idol, because it was a different, and it still is a different single cut, and they dropped the ball on that guitar and Nick's guitar style in so many ways. That's a whole other thing. But for me, I I'd had 2 Les Pauls, but I'd kind of like, I was pretty much BC Rich Jackson. That guitar, as soon as I played it, I was like, I have to have this. And it started me on this years-long journey towards like, well, now I have the 72. I wouldn't have that 72 custom Les Paul if it wasn't for that Preacher. Right. That started me on that path. I probably wouldn't have half the Gibsons I have because of that. It started me on that path, and because, like he said, it was the quality of the BC Rich Custom Shop was part of the initial. I think I had my first USA. I had a Beast, and I think I had gotten it within the same year that I'd met you. So all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I had so many import BC Riches, and this was my first USA, and it was an eye-opening experience.
It was a big jump, yeah.
Yeah, it was like going from making minimum wage to making $20 an hour, and you just could never go back.
Yeah.
You know? And when that guitar, when I held it in my hands and I played it, and I was like, oh my God, and it was the next guitar after that Mockingbird that I got off of you that I just wrote a crap ton of music on. It just literally, it took me and changed me.
Wow.
In so many different ways.
That's what good guitars will do. Like I said, you pick it up and it just starts coming out.
And it was an affordable guitar too.
Yes.
But that's the key thing. It exposed people. Like you said, it turned you on to a Les Paul. You know, the guitars we did, you know, exposed people to things that they, you know, wouldn't necessarily play.
Yes,
right.
You know,
definitely. Yeah, and the thing about that is that particular run, we didn't charge enough for them.
No,
I mean, and as a businessman, I think that they were every bit. We charged like I think $16.95 or $17.25. So I just can't remember. That's a long time ago. But using pricing from that era, that was every bit a $2,000 guitar all day long.
Yeah.
Because the USAs were like $3,200 all the way up to $5,000.
Now the used Boogie Streets you can find online for over $3,000 of the same model.
Yeah,
I mean, so here's an example of the quality of an import guitar that didn't depreciate. It appreciated it. You know, and it's gone
That's
up
pretty
to
satisfying.
Twice as much as what we weren't selling them for that. I mean, we sold them for, you know, the right price, you know, but we undersold them, and now look at them. The fine one is you know, you're paying a pretty penny for them.
Oh, there's no question. It's
and they don't pop up often either, because my nose is still I look at millions of guitars all the time, and I'm not necessarily going to buy any of them, but they don't. The thing about it, you know, guitars, you know, people sell Gibsons and the resale value, you know, and this and that, but the good guitars, you don't see them for sale.
No.
Well, that's exactly it. That's right. That's exactly it. You rarely see. You can find a 1,000, like you said, Gibsons online.
Yep.
You can find 1,000, you know, Washburn dimes online, but you don't really see the Washburn Boogie Street dimes.
Yep.
You don't see them.
Yeah. Anything that has our logo on the back it doesn't come up often that I can see, anyways, on resale. And that's the other thing that you mentioned earlier, which is, you know, guitars, barring physical abuse or physical injury, guitars are eternal. They're going to be around maybe for generations, right? So that legacy of every little headstock we got out there that's stamped with that Boogie Street logo on it, it lives on and will live on well past my experience here. And it's just like that is a very satisfying thing that maybe a lot of people not in the business wouldn't understand that, but that's a little bit of like a legacy you leave in the landscape of the genre of guitar, you know?
And karma. I try to tell the piano stuff guys all the time. It's like, you have no idea what kind of good karma you're generating just by what you do every day.
Yeah.
You know, the kids that walk out, or the people, or the old guys, or ladies, whoever it is that walks out of, it's like making good food, but it's better than that. The food don't last forever, you know what I mean?
That's why I love the business, because that's you know, and look, I've had a nice run with real estate, and I love being at the closing table and people are happy, but it's nothing like, it's just nothing.
It's more money than
yeah, but it's nothing like the feeling of seeing some and I'll just say it this way, some kid getting their first Boogie Street guitar and going crazy because they're just madly in love with the thing, and then seeing them shred like crazy on it and like living with the thing. You know, like just living with the damn guitar.
I used to love watch Steve go at it. You know, he'd kill it, man. All the Dimebag licks and stuff like that, man. He just, you know, it
brings joy. You know, it's a joy bringer.
Well, that's what it is.
There's just nothing bad. There's no angle to it. There's no politics. There's no whatsoever.
Someone having fun.
Yep.
Do you think if we'd started this, do you think if Boogie Street had started today, do you think we still would have had the same opportunity for success with the current landscape the way it is?
That's hard to say because the world now is with all the social media stuff. It's completely.
That's what I mean.
It's completely different.
The pace was slower.
Berger sings the ghetto. We're shut down.
Welcome to the ghetto.
I tend to look at if it's lived once, it can live again.
Yeah.
And if you created it once, you know, look at all the copycats. You know, and I'm not going to call Cluter a copycat, but like I said, Dean, and I realized that wasn't wrong because I remember when he did the limited runs. You know, after I'm sure you were cool with that. He's a nice guy and everything.
John's a great friend. As a matter of fact, he even contacted me and said, "Hey, you're not going to be like miffed if we like do a import run of dimes." I'm like, I go, absolutely not. But you're about the only person in the Washburn ecosystem that I would be okay with it. You know what I mean? I had no enemies in the Washburn ecosystem, but in terms of dealers, they were the only one. Funky Monkey Music, Pat and John, they got it. They understood like customer service. Granted, they had a retail operation. They still did a lot of Nuno stuff. They did. That was their Nuno was their thing. But they got the idea, and they were not. We were competitive, I guess you could say. And early on, I probably didn't get off. I can remember not getting off on the right foot with them early on with Washburn because I misread something. And I think I had a rather terse conversation with them, but like a day later, it was instantly fixed, and it's been right ever since. But I think that I was fine with them doing their thing because he promised it to be much different than ours, which they were, and they were completely different.
Yeah.
But again, it comes down to honesty and integrity, right? I mean, the guy realized we had success and wanted to try something similar so they could have success. I was fine with it, and he says he would, you know, maintain the integrity of what we did, and he did. But you can't ask for more than that.
But what you might not realize, or maybe you do, when you say could it survive now, it actually has, because I see it all the time on. I mean, I don't use anything, but I don't do Facebook, and I just Instagram. That's it. But I'll see things pop up on there. People want to know, how did they do this? What's the specs on that? Where can I get my hands on this? So it's still out there. I mean, people still want it. You know, well, you see that people they still want the merch and all that stuff. But I mean, it is still surviving.
Like that, Fred. He wants me to go back in business.
Yeah,
that's like I mentioned to you earlier about Adam from Dimebag Rig Project. He's constantly, you know, he'll ask questions, and people are asking him about stuff that we did. How did we do this? Even down to all the import runs that had the custom truss rod covers.
Yeah,
you know,
Brain Banana.
Yeah.
Super guy. See, the part of that Boogie Street family, he did so much custom work for us, and then we turned him on to Washburn. He ended up doing some custom pickguard work for the Nunos directly for the factory. Like it just, like you said, man, it's karma. Like you treat people good, they treat you good in return, and everybody wins.
Yeah.
Network with the right people.
1,000,000%. Yeah, I don't know. I just wonder today, because the pace of society was slower then, and our communications were a little slower, and people generally had time to breathe before they responded socially on the internet. Everything is just so caustic and quick, and I don't know if I'd have the patience for it today.
Well, I think you'd have more critics right out of the gate.
That's what I mean, and I would probably not. I'd have to work hard not to take that shit to heart.
Well, and then that's because no matter what you do, I mean, you had it back in the day too, but now it would be, as soon as if you design something new, you throw it out there, you're going to have 5 people saying, well, you ripped that off from this, or that's bullshit, or oh, that looks stupid, or you should have put this pickup in there. And
I smile.
Yeah, I smile.
And I say, making money on it. You know, it works. But I look at it like this, and I've always said this: if you got critics, that means you're doing something right.
Well, that's true.
Oh, for sure.
You know, and well, I mean, we had them back in the day.
Oh, we had it. Yeah.
But you know what? I think our product spoke for itself. I think our company we kept spoke for itself. Like you said, everyone was happy with what we did. And if it was around today, we'd find a way to make it work. We'd find a way to win people over. We'd find a way, because that's what we did. I mean, we did it then. We didn't have to produce the best product we could. We didn't have to.
Oh, I know.
You know, but that was our standard, you know, from everybody, you know. Even today, you know, I still, it's my name on every rock star that I work for, you know, and I treated every person that I did privately, or if I did a Boogie Street guitar, those guitars are set up the same way that I would set up for a superstar like Zach Wilde, for like Nikki Say, or whoever, you know. But that's what we did, and I learned that from, you know, and I brought that to the company,
100%.
You know, and we did that. We listened to what people wanted. If something was wrong, if something got broken shipping, we took care of it. You know,
100%.
you've so many companies now. If something's wrong, you've got to write. No, you came straight to us, you know, and we rectified it, and we made sure that you were taken care of. You don't have that, and I think that if it was around today and somebody bitched and cried and complained that, you know, their pronouns weren't right on the shipping label, we would write, you know, shim or sure or whatever on there, you know, so the next time it wouldn't be fucked up.
I think the other thing, to your point too, is that the difference is that there's a lot of people that say they have customer service, and they really don't.
They really don't.
You know what I mean?
It's a marketing slogan.
You would be able to this day, you know, say if you decide, hey, we're going to start up again, you would get a real person on the phone. That wouldn't, you know, the quality of there, and that word is right there, I think, in quality. All the stuff that you know, I working with for Bayer and for corporations and stuff, the Kanban, all these, you get all these different philosophies from different parts of the world, because they'll have guys come in and benchmark stuff on what you're doing, and all the different things that I did in there. One of the things that's always stuck out strong is quality sells itself. It doesn't have to have a color or a name or a brand or whatever it is. It sells itself. You don't have to.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And to the point it said, you can find a million Gibsons, and you know, Gibson's fine, but you're not going to find a lot of Boogie Street guitars. Why? Because it's a special thing. It is, even to this day, is a limited, special, magical thing.
It was.
That all you have to do is pick up the ball and run with it again. You know, business is business. There's always going to get money, figures, all these other things are that. But when you just have something that's quality, it sells itself. Even shit that I'm sure that any one of us could probably name something we bought as a kid and still have it, and it still works. Why? Because it's quality. The company might be out of business because of, you know, for whatever reasons. Because, like, you could be like BC Rich and have a great guitar, but everything behind it has to support that for it to be a successful thing. And that's why they're not around anymore.
1,000,000%. And so I also, here's where I may doubt that it's possible to recreate what we did, because Washburn was a unique company. We had a unique opportunity, and they were operating in a way that was helpful to us. I'd have to find a brand I believed in that had real legitimacy in the market, and I just don't know that
they thought out of the box ahead of the time.
I'm gonna say that's old school thinking. That you wouldn't be finding a brand, you would be the brand now. There's enough stuff out there, you know. Agiles, they make all the Schecters. You know, there's a number of other. I've gotten some Amazon guitars that easily compete with some of the Gibsons I have.
Well, my question to you, that's the other part of the component. I have not bought like any knockoff guitars ever, so
you need to visit my place. Well,
what I'm saying is, I know that I have seen fake Boogie Street guitars, and I also know that. Oh yeah, but I also,
that's the ultimate compliment there.
No question. But I also have seen Well, you see a lot of fake Southern Crosses, and I consider the Southern Cross a Boogie Street guitar. It didn't have our branding on it because the run was created by Dime in Washburn, but we pretty much bought 97% of them.
I'm gonna say the word Gibson.
Well, what I'm saying, yeah, that's fine. What I'm saying to you is, I have seen some of our runs that we did in later years, extras land out in the market, made from the same Indonesian factory with the serial numbers still in the same range of what we did. I just think they, it's what I'm guessing is that factory we ordered 50, they made 60. And they sent 10 out the back door. I think that's entirely possible.
It's like that everywhere.
Or they took one of our run, these 10, 15 years later, and recreated an identical one, and just that serial number is out there with multiple units now. I don't know.
There's probably some QC rejects too. That you know what I mean.
We're not in control of that. I don't have the deep pockets to go in and fight for the integrity of our brand and all. I don't have that, so I wouldn't want to do that anyways. But I guess my point is, CNC has gotten so incredibly good, and you gotta give Indonesia, South Korea. Sorry, South Korea, Indonesia, and certainly China kudos, because I would never, during my time with Washburn, never agreed to have a Chinese electric made because they had not shown me anything back in that era that was remotely ready. Indonesia, I was skeptical about when they moved it from South Korea because there was a labor spike in South Korea, so they went to Indonesia, and I was skeptical because the first runs we did were Korean, high quality. But when they showed me that the Indonesian factory was even in some instances better than that, I was okay. But every Chinese acoustic Washburn got was incredible.
Yep.
I mean, their acoustic factories were just off the charts amazing, but their electric guitars in that era from China just never did it for me.
Yeah, there was a big imbalance back then.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
I remember even back then it was hard. It was even kind of stifling to accept the Chinese. It was, you know what I mean? It was still kind of taboo even then. It was like you could feel they were great. You could look at all the everything was nice and right on them.
It's not crazy good.
But there's one.
Yeah, but I get it, because there was a stigma of like poor quality.
And there was, because they didn't catch up. They've caught up.
Yeah, they've caught up for sure.
Yes, for sure.
And you knew it was going to happen. So my point is, like, are you all familiar with these off brands like Donner, and there's like a bunch of other like off brand guitars? But you see some of the reviews on YouTube where they take the guitars apart, and for like $299 there's an ES335 copy that has stainless steel frets, rounded edges. I mean, it's like it's pretty freaking impressive for what it is.
I can show you pictures on my phone. That's why I said the word Gibson, because I mean I've got like 7 or 8 Gibsons, and I have a Gibson. Mm-hmm. And if I was going to go play out, I actually probably would take the Gibson.
I've got a couple Gibsons.
Yeah,
and you can't tell the difference.
Well, back in the day, though, you go way back.
You can. Don't tell me that you can.
I can.
Yeah,
I know
I can.
But I take mine and I modify them.
Yes, I did.
It plays just like
you switch the right things out on them. Yep.
Change the hardware.
The nut, I think, is usually the most constant thing that like it almost always. But other than that, that's like the only one.
The feel on them, the playability. They're using the factories that, and not all of them.
It could be the same factory the Gibson's using to make the Epiphones. You don't know that.
Exactly.
It could be.
But there are high quality stainless steel frets.
Yes.
The pots, take off the pot metal tuners, take off. But you know what? You throw some Grovers on there, you're in. Mm-hmm. Throw on.
Change the humbuckers out.
But I recently got one. And I bought it for a friend of mine, and it's amazing. It's a Les Paul, and it's a Les Paul copy, but it's perfect. In every way. It's got some wonky. You probably, if you upgraded the pickups, but these factories are putting out everything, even Gibson CNC. Even the Les Pauls, everything down there is all it is a machine. It's what hardware what pickups, it's what tuners you put on.
But it's also nitro lacquer versus poly.
Exactly.
There's some differences.
So, but the bottom line is they're all made the same way now.
Yes.
They're thrown into a CC machine.
And you want that. As a player, you want exacting tolerances.
It's consistent.
You want it.
It's
Yeah,
very
you
consistent. So you tell them, this is what I want to these specs, they give it to you. And then you throw Tone Pros on there. You throw some Duncans on there. You throw some EMGs in there. You throw some Grovers on there. And you got a Boogie Street guitar.
So, do you have any 10S's yet?
No.
Okay. I'll have to turn you on to that.
All right.
So, have you? I think Jared Deans. I don't know if that's the guy's name.
The YouTube dude.
YouTube guy, but the Mountain Dew guitar. Did you ever see it? It's like an 12 string or 18 something string.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They built that, and if you right after Dusty Hill died. The guy that replaced him, he came, and I think it was kind of silly, but he came out with that big yellow. So they also built that for him.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I have, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 of them, and I almost my luthier that built he's loved everything. He's like, how the hell do they do this? I mean, satin finishes. You saw the Tiger guitar.
For the money, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And I don't know if you've seen it yet. But I'll have to show. I mean, literally. So if you look at an ESP LTD and they have, it's a camo guitar. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, just the friggin' face of the body is camo. The whole rest of it, on the back of it, is some other color. The back of the neck, some other color. Well, I could show you a picture on there. I got a snow camo and I got a regular camo, and then there's satin. But the camo goes all over the guitar. It's on the back of the neck.
Very cool.
It's on the headstock, everywhere, and the pattern never ends. So, you could go get an ESP for, $1,500, $2,000. You're going to pay because you're not going to get, unless it says ESP and you get it from Japan. There's the only way they're going to do that for you.
Exactly right.
Or you can get. They built one for me. It was a satin crackle green Les Paul, and shipping and everything. It was under $1,000. They got it to me, and their neck, the connection in between. I've never ran into another guitar company.
That's what scares me, though. It scares me that it's got. I mean, I think in one regard it's fantastic. I definitely don't like the counterfeiting. Like, I don't think it's appropriate at all for a company over there to take the Gibson logo and try to fool people.
I agree with you.
But if you throw a Boogie Street logo on it,
well, no,
exactly.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, if you're not trying to counterfeit anything, you're just coming up with the designs, and obviously it depends on whether or not those shapes are in the open domain or not. Yeah, I understand. I just
nudge, wink.
My point in saying that is this: I've shown these every person that sees these guitars that is a guitar player is immediately like, "Oh my dude, that's so cool." But remember that stigma from way back then. You know what I mean? I see the exact same thing there.
Yeah.
Whereas, you look at the guitars on this company, you get on Reverb and look at them. I mean, they're ebony boards.
Yeah.
Some of them are. It's the Boogie Street vibe, because they'll take one and they'll. You don't know how many they're building, but there's only so many, and I guarantee they're not building like the Tiger guitar. There's no way they built a lot of them, because when I learned from my luthier just what they had to go through to build one of those, it's.
Well, they should. You think about though, they go through all that aggravation to build one, and they already have the process. They should make 100 of them.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
But here's the same guitar company that you're getting all this stuff in, and it's like, oh, and they'll put my band's logo on the headstock for me.
Yep.
For no extra charge.
Oh yeah.
So I'm getting a Les Paul that you can't buy in this country. It's got features on it that you're not going to get from another guitar manufacturer. But
What's the name of this company?
10S.
10S. Wow. I'll have to check that out.
like hit the ball with rackets.
I think I looked at them I saw the pictures that you posted of those, the green one.
Yeah, that's impressive.
So I'm just getting ready to throw DeMarzios into that. If you swipe to the right, and there's a Flying V there, that guitar was $233 shipped. Okay, dude.
Makes me want to puke.
Stainless steel frets. the edges are rounded perfectly. I mean, it's a light guitar, but it resonates. It's got a rosewood board on it.
That's my point. Like, how are these USA companies going to ultimately end up surviving?
Because
charging like 20 times the price.
Their name brand.
Exactly. I was just like a Harley Davidson.
But how much longer is that going to work out, though? Like
forever.
There's always going to be somebody who will pay it.
Forever, in the same way the Boogie Street guitars are going to live forever, because once it's there, dude, it's there, and it's either going to be copied or redone again, like all the movies we've seen.
But here's the thing, though. When we were doing it, imports, they hadn't refined processes like that. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many high quality, cheap guitars out there now of super high quality. You couldn't say the same thing 20 years ago.
No, not at all.
You see what I mean?
No.
So now the consumer has way more choices. These kids are getting guitars, especially on low budgets. They're getting incredibly well-made guitars, and at some point, are they going to grow up? As they grow older, are they going to really want a Fender or a Gibson or a PRS when the prestige of the brand might not matter that much?
No, and that's the wonderful thing about today's kids. It doesn't matter.
Yes,
it just doesn't matter.
So that's so is Gibson, this company's going to survive?
They will, because the Harley Davidson, they're always it's an icon. It's never not going to be an icon. You can't take Jimi Hendrix out of the equation. He's always going to be. It's just going to get bigger and large. It's a legend.
Well,
I should say
Washburn is, and I always have a fond affection for that brand. I certainly have it for Rudy and that whole staff back then, but they're a completely different company now. They don't have their own USA custom shop. They farm out whatever quote unquote USA made stuff they do now, which I think is limited to Nuno stuff. I think
mostly it seems like
but they're not the same company. They're not. It's not the same.
No,
it's just not the same.
They don't deserve to own the rights to the idol shape or the.
But they do nothing with it.
Or the Nick Cantonese idol.
So I have to get this off my chest to make sure people know this is how I feel. The two biggest missed opportunities at Boogie Street, hands down, for me personally, was that Washburn never believed in the idol like we believed in it.
Completely agree.
And then the other thing was that Paul and Washburn didn't believe in the preacher like we did, as much as we did. I mean, he had this is the only difference of opinion I've ever had with him, and we didn't always agree on protos and things, but most of the stuff, there was mostly home runs and very few strikeouts, but he had a winner in that guitar, and I don't know if he fell out of favor because he just it just wasn't really interested in it, but Washburn wasn't interested in it either. We could have really done amazing stuff with the preacher. We did some amazing stuff with the idol. We thickened the body. We really did
all three of those guitars, because I consider the Cantonese its own thing.
Absolutely, the Evil Twin model we had. We did try to mainstream that, but even the thin body idols, the WI-68s, and the toggle switch is placed differently and so forth, and it's a little different, but that body shape sits. If you're someone that plays at home and you play a single cut and you sit and you put it on your knee, the neck is closer to your body on an idol. You don't have to reach as far out. The idol's a very comfortable guitar to play, and until you actually get one in your hands and play it, you won't get what I'm saying. But what a special opportunity, and they just wouldn't run with it. We were like the only dealership in the world that was buying idols in volume. Could not get the company to,
and we sold them.
And we sold them all.
Yeah.
I mean, we were just.
And the resale value today proves how wrong they
exactly
were.
How much they missed.
Yep.
Because that guitar right now is over $3,000.
Oh, easily. Oh, I've thought the black version I've seen for $5,000. The Black Preacher, but now I do. It breaks my heart when I see some of the idol stuff just didn't hold their value, but I blame that primarily on Washburn not believing in that shape, and Rudy helped create that shape, and we just got constant. Kevin Lillo was great to us, David Karen, all those guys, and the only time we really bash heads was when we got them to dive into the idol a little bit. They created the Pilsen. They wanted to introduce the idol and mainstream it, and they probably figured, McKenna will love that. Well, meanwhile, we were about specking out guitars and making them aesthetically beautiful. They make it with solid colors, no binding, rosewood fingerboards, and dot inlay, and then putting it on the street for like $1,100. And I'm like, you're insane.
Yeah.
You could, the only way to introduce this beautiful guitar is to make, a full binding version with ebony boards and big block inlays and, the whole spec out. It just could not get them on board.
I think didn't have the vision.
I think that's the story of that company, in my personal opinion, though, because I've had so many different Washburns, and I don't think they believed in any of their shapes. I mean, I've had, I don't know the names of all of them, but there's plenty of, they've played
the CTS.
The CTS, I had a custom shop one of those.
How about the NX6, which was the stop tail version of the Nuno guitar, the M4?
Yes.
That's a great guitar.
Yes.
And they were lower cost to make, and I begged them to make me a bunch of NX6 guitars, and it's, well, no, we're going to make the N4s instead. Well, you got everything's the same. It's just one modification, right?
I'll bring up the Instigator, because that was a great shape that they had, and it never would have came back unless you went and made the blue ones. And even then, it was just kind of like, I remember that it just felt like it was pulling teeth out of them.
Yeah.
To do that.
Yeah, it's
a winning metal shape.
It's not a personal personal attack or anything like that. I have nothing but fond memories. But when you look back, if you ask me what some of the missteps were, and we made plenty ourselves, but in terms of regrets that I've had, like things that I think could have been winners, the Preacher could have been a huge winner. For Paul, it would have been, he didn't want to play it with Kiss. That was going to be his side project. Great, we're on board, ready to commit money. We're going to do it in a big way. And he just lost interest in it. It was really interesting. I'll never understand. I hope maybe someday that shape will come back in some capacity. I mean, he's got all the money in the world. He could, maybe Ibanez will bring that back for him or something, or contact me. I'd love to. He would be one of the reasons why I would try to do it.
In China.
Yeah.
I think he owns the shape. So I don't want to be
tweaking it here and there.
Well, no, I would never do that. I would never. I won't do that. I wouldn't want anybody doing that to me. But I certainly would be open to the idea of
bringing them back,
doing something. In that
regard. What we could do, we could call Paul.
I still have his number. Yeah, and who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Paul, if you're watching this, I know you're, the Kiss is retired and so forth. If you're looking for things to maybe do,
he's on the internet going, yeah, there's Eric McKenna.
Yeah, well, I just think that, and he's got more connections than imaginable. I'm sure bigger folks than me would take that project, but I just think that we really believed in that guitar, and and unfortunately for us. If you remember back to the late 2000s, it's when the housing market crashed and the economy crashed right after it, and all of our high-end customers were looking at their 401ks and, not spending as much on high-end guitars. The dollar remained very strong overseas, so our international customers kind of dried out. But we still found a way to move $1,000, $3,000 guitars. We still found a way to do it in spite of a bad global economy.
Yeah, his name was Steve Berger and Fred Kowalo. Yeah, those guys.
That's why we're living in the van down by the river.
What was the funniest moment of all the Boogie Street years to you? I know I'm putting on your spot.
Yeah, there was. You're talking the Elf. One thing that always sticks out is when we were filming the DVD. I don't know what was going on. I was in the back somewhere, and I hear him off to the side somewhere doing his Aussie. Do I go now? Do I go now? I always think of that.
I thought one of the funniest things ever was just you coming in at night and just being pissed off.
Dr. Z.
Dr. Z.
Remember that one?
Yeah, the Volkswagen guy or something? The president of Mercedes-Benz or something?
Yeah, when Daimler bought...
Chrysler.
Daimler bought him out or something, man. Dr. Z. I don't know, man. Just the stupid shit we used to do on Saturdays. I got all them video clips of the stupid songs we used to make. And
oh, man.
Yeah, you can't pick just one. You just can't.
Anything stand out in your mind?
No.
He was
he was in the corner hoping he wouldn't get singled out. We would make him do something stupid.
One of the coolest moments, though, is when I went and filmed you, both still pictures and video, on the stairway.
Okay, I remember that.
Between the floors.
I remember what I played, but
you had a black Boogie Street hoodie on, maybe that one, believe it or not, over there. And you had one of our acoustics and two of our acoustics. One of them was a baby, like a baby Taylor, but it was a baby Washburn. It was a mini guitar.
I remember
travel guitar. But I remember how beautiful that just the acoustics of that hallway was. It was concrete and steel.
The reverb was just right.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was really freaking unbelievable.
I remember
in there. Yeah, and we used some of that footage, I think, on the recording. Yeah, well, I mean, everything we used a clown show.
Mike Rice came up.
Oh,
Ricey,
yeah. He did the BB King thing. Remember that?
I do remember that.
Learn to shred like BB King.
Yeah, I don't know. I just can't thank you guys enough. I mean, again, not to sound corny, but it's like that's such an enchanted time in my life. And if I had known it was going to end so abruptly, I might have done some things differently. But still,
I would have hit some more guitars.
So Fred you do know how he used to hide guitars, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, he used to hide them in the ceiling. So my father was an electrician by trade. So my dad was always lurking around the buildings, and he was like part of the.
I never knew about the ceiling.
Yeah, because there was a drop ceiling.
I knew there was a drop ceiling.
My father goes to change the light bulbs in the ceiling, one day, and he calls me and goes, "Are those guitars that are like over the grid system in the ceiling? Like, I don't know if it's safe to be storing guitars up there." And I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Yeah, well, there's like, as I look up in the ceiling here, there's a bunch of them all spread out. Probably not. Whoever did it was trying to make sure there wasn't too much weight in any one place. I got to call Fred. And that's how Fred would just tuck them away, because he'd do the run.
Guess where those guitars are now?
Find a great one.
Guess who owns them ones?
And I was totally fine, because we had an arrangement, and whatever he wanted, we would work it out. But the ones he wanted, he didn't want to mix them with the rest of them, because he figured they'd get shipped out or whatever. And he stuck them in the ceiling.
I never heard that.
I had multiple hiding places.
I knew that he hit him. I remember you talking about him, but you never told me about the ceiling.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The good ones.
Oh, he thought he had it until he didn't know my father was going to come in there and happen to change some light bulbs.
Well, there was times at the Ryan Court. Remember in the back, you had that big wooden platform. You do the pictures.
Yes.
I think there was
in the beginning. I did pictures on those things.
There was a closet or something back there.
There was a whole, like a walk-in closet.
Something back there.
Refrigerator back there and things we had in there too.
I don't remember the fridge, but I remember the room. And I know there was times if he knew I was going, hey man, if you grab that one, put that in the back for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
You got some good ones.
It's good to know people.
Yeah, it was always good. For me, again, just to have that time with my kids when I was going through a divorce at the time, very amicable when they were little, but having my kids during the day, a couple days a week, and then having them run around and stuff. You can't, for a young dad, you can't buy that opportunity. And I associate a lot of his early years with my kids growing up too, and now you look at them like 25 years later.
No wonder your kids hate you, because you went to Boogie Street every Saturday.
And I even remember little things like when your son was born. I remember you had him up there one day, and he wasn't walking yet, but he was bolting across the floor.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. I remember that a lot too.
Okay, so funny things. The two things just came to mind. The 2 speeding tickets you got me out of. Literally, yeah. So the first one, my parents happened to come past me, so they actually passed me on 28. So I got pulled over.
Okay.
And, I was going to get a ticket until the cop somehow got on the subject of guitars and started talking about guitars. Immediately, Boogie Street came to mind. And I started talking about that. That got me out of that ticket.
I didn't know that.
Okay.
I remember.
So it was a couple of weeks later, go in the opposite direction on 28. I get pulled over again, and of course I pull over right away. And as soon as the cop comes up to me and I look, I go, oh, it's that guy. And as soon as he gets on, he goes, hey, you're the guitar guy. And once again, does he talk about the ticket or how fast I was going? He goes, he did. He said, hey, thanks for pulling over so quick. And then he immediately starts talking about guitars. And I'm like, oh, great, got me out of the second one.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it was. It was totally a beautiful thing.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that I was a guitar player. It was my connection.
Yeah.
Because I immediately, I don't know, when guitar players get
material to bullshit.
You love guitars and you talk to another guitar player. It
just goes forever.
Those meetings, that was part of it, It was a music love, it was a guitar love, and I think once you get those two things together, all the pretensions and your personal kind of things go away. You get two Sabbath lovers together, you know what I mean? They're going to go on and on about it. It's all the stuff that doesn't matter. It all of a sudden really doesn't matter.
It was crazy too. Just when you would have delivery day, like when a USA Washburn would arrive or import run, just to open those cases, it was just nuts. Like you'd open those cases just to see what the hell's in there, and Vroom would walk in. I'll never forget. You would always say, "All right, man, show me all the good stuff. What came in since last week? Oh, it's all over there." And you just open that stuff, and you're like, "Holy shit!"
That was the awesomest thing. It was like being a kid in the candy store with candy that nobody else has or seen yet.
Nobody's seen it yet.
And the only bad part about it was like, say,
the pocketbook.
the USA dime that was the hollow, the chambered one that I think Dave, out in California, and I think that was his name. He was the cop. He was the policeman that was out in California.
Was it a dime or was it a V?
No, it was a dime, man. It was the most beloved, glorious dime I've ever.
And it was a hollow bottom.
It was the only, because I remember specifically, it was the only chambered USA dime.
And it came from us.
It came to you, and it went to that guy out in California, and I'm assuming he still has it. But oh my God, was that the most amazing? It all looked like was a dime slime. So until you played it, you wouldn't have think it was just anything other than
I remember that
than a USA dime. But as soon as you played it, you were immediately
I couldn't hide it fast enough.
No, you were just broke. All the other guitars you broke.
I can't see how you wouldn't, because it was like it was completely.
I remember it now. And that's what I mean. Like, it's just so hard to remember all the good.
I'd have sold my soul for that guitar.
It was a killer guitar. For me, Southern Cross 56 that went out there, because that had everything that I still remember it, and it's just like fuck, and it was different than the rest of them. It had
you could tell by
something about, and I already bought like 27 and 69, so I'm like, then I had like a Boogie Street Southern Cross, so I got 3 of them, but I just still remember that one, and I'm like, man,
56. So if you're out there and you got number 56,
I'm looking for you,
Freddie.
Yeah, I'm looking for you.
Yeah, I remember the Paduke stuff that we did. Like
they
had Washburn was only doing Paduke for the Nuno stuff, and I think the only reason was because no one ever thought about putting it on anything.
Because it was poisonous.
It was very poisonous.
If you breathe it, you die. But yeah, let's make some sawdust.
Let's talk about that for a second. Hold on. So we said, can we take that Paduke wood and put it on some idols?
I remember
and
those.
And they made me 2 solid Paduke idols. They were like 16 pounds apiece.
Yep.
So I said, it might be better. It might be just better to do the tops Paduke, and they made a bunch of those. And then we did some Paduke top Stanleys as well too.
Yep.
On the USA front, ungodly expensive but ungodly beautiful.
Yes.
And then Steve Bennett was like so happy that he wanted to send these little mementos, and he sent this Boogeyman inlay from the BoogieBolts back in 2000, and he had it on a little block of ebony. He had him do that for me, and I still have it. But he's like, I gotta show you, man, I'm so excited for this Paduke stuff because you want it so bad. I want to send you a memento of it. So the idiot, excuse me, Steve, he takes Paduke sawdust and puts it in a Ziploc bag.
Yes.
And he sends it to Freddie and I. And I don't know nothing about Paduke.
I think I still have some at home.
Well,
there might be some in that box.
So I opened the bag up, like, I wonder what this stuff smells like. And I remember I took a whiff of that. And I remember I got so sick.
It's poisonous.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, that bag, what you sent me, has made me sick. He goes, yeah, I kind of found out that I probably shouldn't have sent that to you. And I go, fantastic, man. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's noxious. There's probably some in that box. I mean, dead serious. There's probably a bag of it in that box. Baseball cards and Padook dust.
Padook dust. And another little trivia. You never made a trip to Washburn with me.
I never did. No,
that's the thing. People think he was always there with me. Fred was never there.
I was always busy.
Yeah, you were never. Coincidentally, you were never. I mean, I made like in those 10 years.
It was like every 6 months. I think you used to go there.
Not so much toward the end, but in the early years, I probably did like 12 trips to Washburn. Most in the early years, but there was multiple times per year we go, and everything you were never around.
Yep.
One time you were going to fly in, because I was there I spent 2 weeks at Washburn in the start of 2007, after the Deuce was finally delivered. A year and a half later. But I went to Washburn, and I worked for 2 weeks. I spent 2 weeks in Chicago, but I spent about a good week and a half at the factory, and I learned a shit ton of stuff. I mean, like Chewy and Eric Carroll and Chuck Stanton and Rob Morelli, and I'm just naming names. But when I tell you that I didn't have a bad relationship with anybody at Washburn, I can honestly say that's the truth. I didn't always agree with everybody. And they had an operations manager, Gil, I thought was a fine fellow. We just completely saw things completely different. And he was in a position to tell me no, and he did.
So, I wouldn't take no for an answer.
But I can't tell you, like, everything about our interaction with them, they went out of their way to be accommodating or come up with different ideas. Like, they were something, man.
They were happy to work with us, and we were happy to work with them. Yeah. And that's where the magic happens. You know what I mean? You had ideas, you had the ability to produce it, you had quality craftsmen like Gil and Chewy Payton, and it was the perfect storm of guitar building.
There's no question. And
we were part of the greatest part of guitar stuff to be alive. And
we might be a little bit biased in that regard.
Well, look at our stuff.
Nobody paints like Chewy, man.
No,
well, you know what he's at? No, he's at Schecter.
He's at Schecter.
Been there for a long time.
And I was glad to see that he painted that.
Zach
the
stuff.
bolt. Yeah, the bolt for Zach.
Yeah.
He deserved that.
Yeah, I would go out there, and then invariably, at least one or two of the nights I was there, like, we'd end up at some bar somewhere in Chicago, and it all would come. Drink. Back then, I did. I certainly did. But it was a group of individuals who just loved guitars, and they were all musicians, and you could just tell it was a job for them too, but they just loved being around things that they loved.
Well, yeah,
for their employment.
Their guitars. And what's not to love
about joysticks?
What's not to love about them?
All right, guys. I kept you long enough. We're going to do this again.
We need to do a part 2.
I think so, because there's so many other specific events that I can really research and drill
down. You know what we'll do next time
about.
We come? Bring our guitars with us.
Yeah. We'll take the ones on the wall down, if they're still even here anymore, because I probably got to part with some of these at some point. We'll hang yours up.
I know a perfect place where I can store some of mine.
I don't think the grid system is that great in here. I don't know if I want to test that, Fred.
Yeah. On second thought.
Thank you. And how can people reach you and your music? Because Arun is an independent artist out there, by the way, and has the most eclectic and cool shit out there. And he doesn't care about this stuff because he does it for the love of music. But I still want people to be able to reach you.
InnerStrengthAD.com, Spotify.
InnerStrengthAD.com.
Yep.
And use that name to search you on Spotify as well too.
Inner Strength on Spotify. Just plain Inner Strength.
And where are you headed next? You're going to NAMM.
We're going to NAMM tomorrow. push my buddies at Tone Pros.
Tone Pros.
Yeah.
Tone Pros, Fred.
Go out there, going to do some photos, going to have some fun, and then I'm going to come home. And
I keep meaning to go to one of those. I almost went to one like about a year ago, and I'm sure I could tag along with it.
They're fun. I mean, this was unexpected. I didn't plan on going out, and I got
go to everyone.
I just assumed you would be there.
Yeah, I got the call to go out, and I'm like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
And okay, I'll twist my arm, and yeah. So I was kind of happy to get the call, and and I love Tone Pros, as we know, and so it's great to go out there, and because I haven't been for a couple years.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they didn't.
I assumed you were there every year.
Yeah, no, well, they didn't have them during the pandemic.
Yeah, that's right.
And then they didn't. We didn't do the winter one last year, and so it's been 3 years. So it's going to be nice to go back out and see people and hawk product. I'm sure I won't have a voice, by the end of it, like I always do. But going out there and being able to work for Tone Pros and that's another product that I believe in. We put them on the Boogie Street Guitars.
On everything.
We put them on everything, and to be able to go back and work with those guys and see those guys again, it's going to be wonderful. I went on a day trip to Yosemite, and I actually stopped a half mile, it was a pee break, a half mile from the factory. From
you didn't go in?
No. So check. Well, I'm with a tour bus.
Okay.
I went with and I'm like, hey man, is this your? They left. They shut the factory down. They shut the offices down and came down to see me.
Very cool.
Yeah, like on a pee break, like we stopped for like a half hour so people would eat and take a leak. But they came down to, they stopped what they were doing and they came down to see me. And I hadn't seen them forever. And because of the pandemic or whatever,
right.
And so we caught up, and then I talked to him the other day, and hey, come out to the NAMM show. I'm like, yeah, I know a guy that likes to come out to the NAMM show. I'll definitely do. So I'm heading.
Is
back
there a
out.
bar there? I'll be there.
So I'm heading out, and I'm going to hawk some product and meet people, and and it'll be fun.
When's the next crew gig for you?
From what I understand, May.
Okay.
So who knows what I'm going to be doing before that? I'll probably be around, hopefully doing a movie, hopefully hanging out here, hopefully doing something. I did some work on Mayor of Kingstown, and last week. But again, I've got NAMM this week, so we'll see what next week brings today.
Well, next time I will do a little more detailed homework for round 2. And we'll get you guys the list of the guitars we're going to talk about, so we can all have our thoughts together.
Yeah,
so,
I want serial numbers. I want numbers. I want how many we got rid of.
But in terms of it's just so we can have some commentary on specific runs, because I think the memories will come back if I say, "Hey, remember this, and this." Then
and we'll bring them in.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Good seeing y'all. Be safe.
Likewise, man.
Seeing you guys,
friends.
Great seeing you guys.
We are out.